So remember how like those banks were collapsing and we were really concerned about one of them and they said, nah, everything's fine. You don't got to worry about that one bank. Well, now we got to worry about that one bank. It's First Republic. And not only are we getting reports that they've basically mismanaged funds, they're being sued. I think it's like $72 billion, something like that. We're hearing now from a Fox Business reporter that the U.S. may seize this bank. Now, Watcher Guru says that the U.S. government is expected to actually seize this bank. And it's a decently large bank. A lot of people have money here. And so, money there. So it's, I don't know. I guess it's worrying. There was some other news, I guess, the other day that I didn't report on. I just don't really care. There's a, who's that guy who's running for, he announced he's going to run for president? Biden.
Oh,
Joe Biden announced he's going to be running for re-election or something. I just don't care. I really don't. It's just not news. So there's that. Then there's a Fox News losing $1 billion in market value after firing Tucker Carlson.
You'd think they'd hire Dylan Mulvaney.
Fox News, they got a great opportunity there. But now we're hearing that they're losing a bunch of Fox Nation subscribers, which is all just completely obvious. And I think one thing people haven't mentioned is that maybe the reason Rupert Murdoch wanted to get rid of him is simply because he was becoming the face of Fox News, and that's a threat to Fox News. They want Fox News to be the brand, not Tucker Carlson. So we'll talk about all that stuff. But before we do, my friends, we got an amazing sponsor tonight, Cast Brew Coffee. Head over to castbrew.com and pick up your coffee today. It's a pre-order. It will ship by May 5th, and you can get one of two signature blends. Rise with Roberto Jr., why in fact Roberto Jr. is our rooster, and Appalachian Nights, a robust dark blend. We also have Colombian and French roast. This is our company. So when you buy Cast Brew Coffee, not only are you supporting the show, you're getting good coffee. Now, that's pretty good deal, isn't it? We're going to be launching decaf. We have a bunch of really good names, thanks to our members. Sleepy Joe Blend, which is, yeah, everybody loves that. That was from our Discord. Sleepy Joe, because, Joe coffee and sleepy because there's no caffeine. And then Stand Your Grounds, which is going to be another roast. So those are going to be rolling out in the next month or so. But once we get the official production line rolling, which is about May 5th, when you start receiving your coffee, we are going to launch coffee subscriptions. We are going to be having this as our principal product at our coffee shop in West Virginia, and we're going to be expanding a lot more. So with your support, Cast Brew Coffee will be a coffee company that is not scared to be associated with good, honest young men who believe in their community and things like that, if you get my drift. Don't forget to also head over, that's castbrew.com. Don't forget to also head over to timcast.com, click that Join Us button, become a member to support the show directly, and you will get access to our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals, share ideas. You can actually call into the show, the Uncensored Members Only show, which as a member you get access to Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. You can actually submit questions and be one of our callers if you've been a member for at least 6 months or sign up at the $25 per month level. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us today to talk about this and so much more is Leighton Woodhouse.
Hello.
Sir, who are you?
I'm a journalist. I have a Substack called Public, which I run with Michael Schellenberger. Been reporting for a long time about crime, homelessness, drugs in the Bay Area. That's where I live. That's where Michael lives, as well as about the censorship industrial complex. We were both part of the Twitter files. Yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah, right on. I saw Tim Robbins was tweeting.
I saw that too.
Tweeted about your work. So
Yeah.
This is the guy from a bunch of
Shawshank
Redemption, right?
Yeah.
And he's got a new movie coming out, but this is he's a big movie star. And
he's also like an old school leftist, like the
Right.
traditional kind of leftist.
Yeah,
You know,
seems
there's
like a
a
good
few of
dude.
them left, I guess.
Yeah, and then and he tweeted about the censorship industrial complex. He tweeted out your work, so very based. So good to have you here, man. Looking forward to hanging out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Seamus?
My name's Seamus Coughlin. I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes where we make animated cartoons. We just released a video today that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. I also have a stream on Rumble. It's a podcast called Shamer. We stream Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m., but we are going to be streaming every single day this week. So if y'all want to go over there and check either of those channels out, I would be grateful.
Right on. And welcoming back to the show is Adrian Norman.
What's going on, guys? Adrian Norman here. I am a staff writer here at Timcast, and like Cast Brew Coffee, I am also a robust dark blend.
Oh, there you go. He's not Ian, but Adrian will try his best, I guess.
Yeah, see what we can do.
How
See what
does
you can
Tim
do.
treat you as an employee writing for Timcast?
Oh, we're just gonna start here.
Give us the dirt.
He's actually
you know?
so he's like one of the few people who doesn't actually live out here. He's very privileged in that regard. He can just go wherever he wants, and we have to fly him in. take care of him, get him on the show. You know what I mean?
You're not like a diva about it or anything, right?
No,
Everything's
good. Yeah,
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad.
He's yelling at me over Slack.
Right on. Yeah, it should be fun. And then, of course, we got Serge pressing all the buttons.
What's up, guys? Serge.com.
All right, well, let's just jump into this first story. I guess this is a big deal, and I don't know how worried you guys are, but we have this from Watcher Guru. First Republic Bank expected to be seized by U.S. government. Wow. First Republic Bank is expected to be seized by the U.S. government. A report by Fox Business Network says, according to Charles Gasparino, bankers working with First Republic say they expect eventual government receivership for the ailing bank. This will come after it exhausts private sector solutions, such as asset sales and finding a buyer, both of which appear difficult. Not surprised. First Republic lost more than 40% of its deposits, approximately $72 billion in the first quarter of this year. Holy crap.
That's bad.
Its shares sank nearly 50% as the end of Tuesday. This is according to a Monday announcement by the bank. The bank has seen record drops over the past month and a half, particularly since the Silicon Valley Bank was closed in March. Multiple big banks have also struggled. However, it looks like First Republic will be falling into the hands of the U.S. government soon. They're going to be doing that central bank digital currency in June or something.
I heard about that.
So this is all like kind of good timing. What if this is what precipitates an emergency buyout? We were talking about this the last time there was a banking crisis, which was like 3 weeks ago. And so yikes. And the idea is like the banks start crumbling. Then the U.S. government steps in and says, we are going to rescue your deposits, good members of First Republic Bank. Simply download the Fed app and we will convert your U.S. dollars into Fed coin, which you can then use to purchase goods.
I'll tell you guys if that happens because this whole discussion is stressing me out. I'm experiencing some existential angst because that's my bank. That's my bank that I bank in. It's also the bank that owns the mortgage for my house.
Well, that might be good news.
It might be. I have no idea. Like,
wouldn't that be cool though?
We've got direct deposits going into this bank. We've got I just told we just learned about this like half an hour ago or something.
Yeah.
I told my wife we don't know what's happening with our money. I mean, we're well under the FDIC cap, so we'll get insured for that. But
to be fair, you've had like a month to prepare for this because we knew First Republic was in dire straits.
I believe their PR statements. They were like, we're secure. I actually think that, I mean, I don't know anything about this, but I do think that they're just taking backsplash from what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. So I kind of doubt that this is a fundamental issue with a bank. I think that this is part of a panic, which is a reason why I should have joined the panic and taken my money out myself.
Or maybe by not panicking, you may have helped them.
Yeah.
But they lost 40% of the deposits?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like mismanagement. They're being sued, apparently. But hold on right there a minute. Wouldn't it be cool to wake up, everybody listening, you wake up one day and you get a phone call and they're like, you know that mortgage you had on your house? It's gone. House is just yours.
Yeah.
For $300,000. Boop.
Actually, in 2009, during the banking crisis, with a financial crisis, was when I bought my first house in LA. And I had this experience. I've never heard anybody have this experience before. I put in an offer on this house. It was super cheap because it was like a short sale. You know, it was like property was super cheap, obviously, right after the crash. And they sat on the offer for a while. They came back to me like 3 weeks later, and they said, my agent called me. He was like, I don't know, can't make heads or tails out of this, but the bank is asking if you are willing to lower your offer by $50,000. And if that happens, we'll clear it and you'll get the house. And I did it and I got the house.
Like, absolutely not. No. I want to pay $50,000 more.
Yeah,
that's
but I
how
guess
crazy the market was.
But I guess the issue was like, would the buyer accept or the seller?
It was like, I think the best I can make of it is like, there was nobody who actually owned the house because these were all securitized loans. It was like, some Chinese sovereign wealth fund and pension fund or whatever. So nobody actually had equity in the house. But the bank that was holding the debt on it was just losing money every month that was on the market. So they just wanted, it was a toxic asset. They just wanted to get off the market. And what they were afraid of is if they took the offer that I accepted, the appraiser would come in who used to be super, these appraisers used to be super like corrupt and hand in glove with the realtors, but all of a sudden they were super honest. And so they were afraid that the appraiser was going to come in and say, no, this is not worth as much as you're offering. And then the deal would fall apart and then they'd have it on their books for months longer. So that's the best I can make sense of it.
First Republic said Monday it lost a net total of $72 billion in deposits during the first quarter. An outflow that would have topped $100 billion if not for a rescue from 11 of the nation's largest banks. So this is like people are it's a run on the bank.
Yeah.
This sounds
Same
like
as
people
Silicon
are
Valley.
rushing to the bank and getting their money out. I'm worried. It's kind of scary. There was another story. Did you guys hear PNC is shutting down like 40 some odd branches?
Wow.
No.
Dude, I wonder if the banking system is going and we're like on the Titanic, just oblivious as like
The banking system and the media at the same time.
We need a Jimmy Stewart.
Dude, the media, Nate Silver got fired.
Yeah. BuzzFeed's gone. BuzzFeed News.
Dude,
Whoa,
we need a Jimmy Stewart to be like, oh, the money's not in the bank. It's in your neighbor's home and in their business. So that people leave their money there.
I think the first thing, Adrian, you did was like you looked up Jim Cramer.
Yeah, it was on Watch or Google.
He's unbeatable.
He was, he's
Guy's batting
undefeated.
1,000.
He literally said, but no, you pulled it up right before the show, and you're like, oh, he said it's a
What did he
safe
say?
bank.
It's a safe bank.
But
Yeah,
he could be right. Like fundamental.
FRC is New Focus, very good bank.
I'm just telling you, the man is undefeated. He will not lose.
I mean, I'm really considering using him as an inverse financial advisor. You know what I mean? Just like whatever he says, you do the opposite. He's like the George Costanza of finance.
Dude, with Nancy Pelosi and Jim Cramer, you should know exactly what to invest in. You have no excuse.
That's true. Yeah, whatever Nancy Pelosi invests in and whatever Jim Cramer advises you to do, you do the opposite.
He's like, don't do. He's like, Nancy's headed for bankruptcy. Don't invest in anyone.
I don't know what this means, though. Am I supposed to be worried? Like, should we panic?
You should always panic, Tim.
I should always panic.
Always panic. That's a good rule of thumb.
I want to try and pull up this news. Look at this one. This is like, we never actually covered this story, even though it's from April 4th. Can I close this or something? What is this? PNC Bank set to close 47 branches across the U.S. by end of June.
Wow.
So if you got First Republic or PNC, I guess the challenging thing is, does reporting on it just contribute to a run on the bank and like make everything worse?
I think the banking system, though, it was a matter of time because the whole thing operates on confidence and faith, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have a system of fractional reserve lending where if you put in $100, the bank can lend out 90 of it and only hold 10.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's holding the system together is everybody not going to the bank at the same time to take their money out, which is exactly what's happening right now.
But they actually lend out 100. They removed the reserve requirement.
Well, they put it back.
2020.
I think they put it back. Someone super chatted, so they put it back. But it's not that they can loan out 90. It's that they can create $90. So if there's $100 in the bank, they create $90 new on that 100. So now there's $190 in the money supply.
Oh, I thought they can actually multiply it by 10, right? Because they only need 10% in reserve. So if they have $100, they can create $900. Like what happened with the bailout was the Fed issued out like $425 billion, so that could be leveraged to give $4.2 trillion in loans out. Like
I'm not sure. My understanding was that you put $100 in the bank, they create $90 in loans. So they still have the 100, and now there's another $90. And then someone who gets that $90 deposits it in a different bank. So now there's 100 here, 90 here. That bank then loans out, $81 or whatever. And so $100 turns into $1,000.
And that's inflation.
Yeah.
No, but I actually think because you only have to have 10% on hand, they can literally say we have $100, therefore we're able to lend out 900 as opposed to 90.
I think you guys are saying the same thing. You're saying
no, but he's
they're
saying 90.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm just being like they could like loan that 90 out, and
But they're not
keep
loaning
10.
it out; they're creating it.
Yes.
Like credit
Issuing
cards make
credit.
money.
Wait,
Yeah.
let me resolve this. If somebody puts $100 into a bank, they create $900 because that's 10%, right? So that gives them the ability to be able to.
I don't think that's how
lend
that
out.
works. They can loan out 90% of the deposits.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
So if they receive $100,
They keep 10 on hand, but what I'm saying,
they keep 100 on hand and then create 90.
I think that do they, or do they just actually issue it out? Because a lot of these banks don't have the cash on hand when people come to withdraw, and that's why they collapse. So I think they actually do pass the money out.
No, well,
Someone's saying
not
it's
in the sense-
900, not 90.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that
$100 deposit is 1,000 in new money loans.
Yeah.
if they lend the money out, it's not as
Seamus
if that
is
gets,
right. Okay, Seamus is right.
It's not as if
Audience-
it gets
no, thank you.
deducted
Well,
from
so-
anybody else's bank account, though.
We don't actually fact check. We just ask the audience, and the audience says Seamus is
The
right.
audience says I'm right. This is a popularity
So that's
contest.
all
Let's
that
face it.
matters.
Yeah.
I got no idea. I mean, I'm not a finance guy, so I just I'll defer to the cartoonist.
That's a brilliant strategy. Look, if you can make a living making cartoons, you're good with money. That's all I'll say.
You can stretch
You can
those
stretch
dollars.
that dollar, dude.
Wait, was that an anti-Semitic joke?
What? No, it was an anti-me joke.
Okay.
He's Irish. He's Irish
Exactly,
black man. No one here is panicking though. Like you're like I'm kind of worried about.
panicking.
Well, you got hold on. You got a house $50,000 cheaper right
True,
after the
I know.
crash,
Just
so
pay back.
you get a break. Okay?
But I might get a free house now,
Get a break.
actually.
Oh, well, that would be nice.
Yeah, what happens? Like the government bails out and the government owns your house.
I have no idea what happens.
What if Joe Biden
no
is just
idea.
like, we own your house?
It's
Yeah.
my house, man. You can't own a house. It's everyone's house, man.
Oh, man.
That's what he said about kids today.
So it's not,
your children, it's the nation's children. I was like, what? Excuse me?
The state owns your kids.
You can't tell someone not to sniff your kid, man. We're all paying taxes for that hair.
I don't think he said that.
That's exactly what he said. You fact check me. Have the chat fact check me on it, Tim.
All right, chat.
check me.
Did Joe Biden actually say he's allowed to smell your kids? They're going to say he did.
That was the spirit of what he said. Hold on. That was the spirit of what he
You're
said.
reading between the lines.
First Republic Bank shares sink
Splitting hairs.
49% after earnings report. I mean, like, the thing about this story is I can opine for days on, like, ABC News firing Nate Silver, and BuzzFeed collapsing, and Don Lemon getting fired, and Tucker getting fired. But, like, the banking system collapsing, I'm kind of just like, well, I'm glad I bought Bitcoin or something. I don't know. It's like, as a millennial who's lived through 2 major financial crises, I'm kind of not fazed by banks falling apart and what that means. And especially considering, I got chickens, so I'm not worried about
Are
anything.
you confident in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm more confident in the chickens, to be honest.
That's true, though.
Right in front of you.
I am more confident in the chickens.
What do you make of the idea that crypto is actually the vehicle that's going to be used to bring in the CBDCs?
I mean, it is. Literally, that's what they're doing. Like, the central bank digital currencies are crypto-based currencies that they're making. The Bitcoin, of course, the precursor. But I've actually argued this for a while, that Bitcoin was the most convenient way to get anti-establishment conspiracy-type individuals to embrace global currency. Mm-hmm. You have people like Alex Jones being like, they want a one-world government with one currency, Amero, the euro, and then all of a sudden, around the time he's complaining about the Amero, a North American single currency, Bitcoin pops up. No one knows who made it. And then immediately it's all of these people who want to buy it. So it's like, convince the one group of people who would reject a global currency to adopt the global currency, and you've won. You've controlled opposition to your way through the barricade,
Yeah, well, and this is part of what is very confusing, right? I mean, conservatism doesn't have a solid definition or solid footing at the present moment. It's a little bit of we're just going to do the opposite of what the left is doing, and a little bit of we're just going to do the opposite of what the establishment is doing. The idea of Bitcoin is certainly not a conservative idea, right? That's a very new, interesting, innovative idea. It doesn't make it a bad one. I think there could be value to it, but conservatism is supposed to be about conserving. Yeah, I would say it's more libertarian. And it's not to say that conservatives can't have any thinking which overlaps with libertarianism. And it would be reasonable to say because this government is so horrible and does things so badly and is destroying our currency, it makes sense for conservatives to look into crypto if that's the particular hedge they've chosen. This is not financial advice. But we have not. We don't have a cohesively defined movement.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens with these banks, and I'm not going to give anybody financial advice, but I'll just tell you I've already been looking at means of storing value elsewhere because with PNC closing, I think it was 47 branches. That's very scary, dude. I mean, that's like that might be bigger news than a regional bank collapsing because PNC is a major bank. They're all over the East Coast. Maybe 47 is not that many compared to how many branches they have. I guess it's an important question, but all of this happening at once is kind of freaky.
Well, the thing about Silicon Valley and First Republic is that they're like high-end banks for, affluent people. They do like First Republic's main business is wealth management. So I don't know about PNC because I guess we do have it on the West Coast, but it's not very, very present. Is it?
No, they're just like during gas stations.
Normal people?
Yeah, they're like Wawa and stuff like that.
Right. So I don't know what conclusions to draw from the fact that it's these like elite banks that are falling, but
in Australia, they announced that some of their big banks are going to stop giving out cash. You go to the bank and you're like, I'd like money. I'm like, you can't have it. Yep.
Yeah.
And the reason why is they said it's because everyone's using mobile apps. So nobody needs the physical location to withdraw cash anymore. You should go to an ATM, which is the precursor to your money only exists on the internet.
Yeah.
And then central bank digital currency.
I've actually wondered many times what this means for panhandlers.
Nobody
carries cash anymore, right?
You're gonna tap your card. You're gonna walk up and go boop, and then they're gonna be like, "Thank you, sir." And they're gonna hold out the keypad, and you're gonna go boop, and then you're gonna type in the number. That's actually interesting. I wonder if like the global elites are trying to eliminate that kind of thing, panhandling. I mean, maybe you'll hand them a bottle of water or a sandwich.
Well, in my city, there are sometimes homeless people who have like a Cash App thing out on their sign.
No,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way.
No, I'm not kidding.
Cash App.
Yes.
And then people walk up with their phones.
The thing is, like, there are a lot of homeless people who just have like really cheap smartphones nowadays. So they get.
So you're saying
they'll get like a $20 phone from Cricket or something or whatever the inexpensive phone provider is now.
You're talking about down in Georgia?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying I could go to a big city, and just sit in a lawn chair and put up a sign with a Cash App and say, "Give me money," and then people will just send me money.
Yeah, you look the role.
We should, we should do. We should put a Cash App thing on Timcast, like right down here in the corner, and just like,
Speaking of Cash
please
App,
give me your money.
I know this isn't on the docket, but did you guys read this report? It was like a month ago or something about how Cash App and the entire, what's the name of it? It's not Square anymore. It's like Cube or something like that. Whatever the company is, Jack Dorsey's company.
I think it's still Square.
Is it still Square?
Yeah, Cubes might be a different one.
Okay. The entire app is basically like most of its revenue comes from like sex trafficking, drug dealing,
my gosh.
gun running.
Yeah.
Wait, Jack Dorsey's. What
It
is
was
this?
like it was a very exhaustive report about how
Wait.
Cash App is just built straight up on black market activity.
We have to make Cash App safe for the black market, which is why we're banning all legal activity on Cash App.
So wait. Cash App. Where did you find this?
It was this report that was issued that they took issue with, but the report was very detailed. I read a lot of it. It was exhaustive. I didn't read the whole thing, but
Because I've got Square shares. I got a handful of them.
Yeah, you should read that report.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, it was maybe like 10 years ago or something, or 8 years ago. Someone told me, this rich dude who lived in New York, I was hanging out with Max Kaiser, and he was just like, you got to buy Square stock because everything's going digital transactions. And I was like, okay, I guess. And then I bought a little bit, and then it like went tenfold in value. I was like, wow.
The other thing I remember in this report is that there's all these rappers who are straight up bragging about it in their raps. So they're like another thing that it funds is a lot of like hitmen are hired via Cash App, and there's these rappers who like some of whom have been charged with murder after reciting these lyrics, who are like, hit me on Cash App, and they're talking about like doing hits on people.
Oh my
through Cash
gosh.
App. So it's like and then Jack Dorsey, I think I remember from this report at one point was like, in an interview, was talking about how grateful he is to all the publicity he's gotten from these rappers.
Oh my gosh. This is the guy who thinks that using the offensive pronouns for person on Twitter makes them unsafe. And he's like,
Come use my murder app. Okay? You'll be able to find somebody.
So let's talk about somebody else who's losing money. Check this out. From the Post-Millennial, Fox loses $1 billion after parting ways with Tucker Carlson. The Fox Corporation stock plummeted as much as 5% on Monday, wiping out $930 million in market value following the announcement that Fox News had parted ways with Tucker Carlson. According to Business Insider, shares of the media company recovered slightly after, so it dropped. It ended up at like $29. The decision to part ways with Carlson announced less than a week after the Fox Corporation and Dominion Voting Systems, blah, blah, blah. Carlson was one of the network's most popular hosts, blah, blah, blah. I saw some really interesting commentary from Glenn Greenwald. You want to know what he said? How come the left doesn't care about Hannity? How come the left doesn't complain about Hannity or Laura Ingraham? And he said it's because Tucker's the only one who was anti-war and anti-big pharma.
yeah, interesting.
So the left went after him and completely ignores the safe GOP. And that's what Fox News wants to be. They don't want Tucker Carlson coming out here and saying these things.
Yeah.
They want someone to go on and just be like, big corporations are great. Everybody just do what the government says.
Exactly. They would love that if Tucker went on there and was like, the left wants you to think that these corporations are doing bad things to America. They're our best friends, actually. They do great things. You should trust
really
Pfizer
good.
and Moderna. Thank you. But I sort of mentioned this yesterday, that CNN is the network that tells you what you're supposed to believe, and then Fox is the network that tells you what you're allowed to believe. So if you don't want to buy into what CNN is saying, they'll push you over to Fox, and that's still within the realm of acceptable opinion.
Controlled
but Tucker's
opposition.
a little bridge too far. Yeah, he's a bridge a little too far for them.
Bridge too far, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually says something. How cable news commentators, they're all buzzwords.
Apparently now they got this thing. He launched this thing on his website where it's like you can text some number to like Tucker to 44 or something or whatever, and then they'll send you information on what he's planning to do or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like you'll get notified when he announces his next big move or whatever. I think Tucker Carlson's going to end up making $100 million a year off this termination. Yeah. Fox, if Fox was paying him, I think they say, like if you Google it, it says his salary is $35 million. Imagine how much Fox needs to make off of his show in order to pay him $35 million a year.
And run Fox. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy, though. I mean, I don't understand how they pay. I think Hannity gets like $60 million or some other ridiculous number.
Hannity was getting paid more than Tucker.
Oh yeah, easily.
Really? He has seniority. It does have seniority, but I imagine Tucker's a much bigger
Tucker
draw
also
to the
just
network.
wasn't bringing in a lot of advertising money.
That makes sense. They all boycotted him.
Yes.
Well, according to the same website, Hannity was getting a comparable salary.
Good.
Yeah, he was getting 34 million plus a 5 million bonus.
I don't think
I don't know if that's
Hannity
true.
should make more than Tucker. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I don't trust these websites. Celebrity net worth as a salary is 45 million. I read somewhere that he was getting 60 million. This one says he gets 25 million. These websites are all fake.
All the people doing these like end zone dances about Tucker being fired from Fox. Like, didn't we just go through this a couple of years ago when Barry Weiss left the New York Times and the same people were doing the same end zone dances? And then she went on to create the Free Press, which is like dwarfs any
Oh, and
presence
she's
she had as a
probably
columnist for the New
so
York
rich
Times.
now.
Absolutely.
I
you
mean,
know?
I think she already comes from like a well-off family, and now the rich have gotten richer because the New York Times decided to unleash her.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So imagine Tucker Carlson, he's going to like 10x that, right?
You got to make a video.
hope.
You got to make a cartoon about like Tucker, Scrooge McDuck, swimming in a
Just
giant
getting a bunch
ball.
of money. Look, I hope that's what happens. I appreciate the optimism I'm seeing from a lot of conservatives on this. Part of my concern is, I voiced this yesterday, is that because Fox tells people what is acceptable, it was great to have Tucker there to help shift that Overton window and introduce a new audience to ideas that the rest of us are familiar with or have been reading up about online, but that audience wouldn't give credibility to seeing it on the internet as opposed to cable television. I certainly have no doubt that Tucker Carlson's going to be extremely successful. He's going to be fine. It's a question of, is his message going to spread as far and wide? I hope so. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying that having that platform was definitely very good for America. Having someone on cable television saying the things Tucker was saying was very good for America.
I think they also had to pay out his contract. Meaning, if he was getting they can't just sever his contract. So I imagine they went to him and said, "We're terminating your show," and he was like, "Then you owe me $30 million for the rest of the year." And they went, "Okay," and had to cut him a check.
Well, apparently he found out 10 minutes before they made the announcement.
So they had to have just paid him,
Right.
because unless they're like, this is the crazy thing about these contracts with these big networks is they give themselves like morality clauses to terminate you in violation of what the contract is supposed to do. It's like, hey, we're going to hire you for 3 years. We're going to pay you X amount of dollars for 3 years. Then buried in it says we can fire you for this specific reason. Then they just wait until they can justify whatever that reason is, and then you're gone and they don't pay you for it. But I imagine they're paying Tucker. I imagine they just wrote a big fat 8-figure paycheck to Tucker Carlson, and he doesn't have to work. What's he gonna do? He's also is Tucker Carlson like the heir to like the O. Henry candy bar fortune or something?
He married into the TV dinner fortune.
Oh,
Yes.
so his wife is the heiress to Swanson TV dinners.
Something like that.
Yeah, the O. Henry thing, that was a Seinfeld reference.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Did he have?
But you're not
well,
old enough to understand
no,
Seinfeld.
of course. Only 90s kids remember.
That's right.
Is that what you're telling
Did he
me?
come from some kind of prominent family himself?
I'm not
before
sure. I don't know.
Yeah, the Vanderbilts. Oh, wait, that's Anderson Cooper.
Oh.
that? Snap.
And then he got a summer internship at the CIA, which he abruptly left, and then went to, I think, Iraq to report on the Iraq War, and then got a job working for for CNN.
Anderson Cooper had a stint with CIA?
I think it was for 2 years, summer internship.
Did you ever leave the CIA?
No, you don't.
Hey, well, there you go. I was hanging out with Luke Brodkowski once, and we were in Atlanta or something. And then he saw Anderson Cooper, and he ran up, and he was like, Anderson, you work for the CIA. And then I was like, Luke, what are you doing? Like, what does that accomplish? And Anderson was just like, what are you talking about? And like walked off. Because the saying is once CIA, always CIA, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think the way it works is that you might not be on the payroll, but you're an asset, right? There's informal relationships. You might not even realize you're an asset, but you've got relationships. They cultivate relationships in you. Then, they maintain those relationships.
Well, I want to ask the audience here. We have this other story from Post Millennial. Subscribers ditch Fox Nation after Tucker Carlson leaves network. Quote, just canceled my Fox Nation subscription. No point in having it without Tucker Carlson originals. Is anybody who watches this show subscribed to Fox Nation?
I did see comments or I saw people chatting and like, I canceled my Fox Nation subscription. So there was some overlap.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not anymore. Maybe they all
Oh,
canceled.
I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking like, why is all this happening at once? ABC News Disney fired Nate Silver. BuzzFeed News shut down.
Don Lemon.
Don Lemon's fired. Tucker Carlson's out. There's like some coordinated thing. Is it a global conspiracy? Are they trying to turn the frogs gay or something?
Probably, yeah. That's got to be behind it at some point.
That's-
I mean,
that's-
I don't exactly know how it twists and turns to get us to that point, but I think that's a safe bet.
I mean, isn't this just kind of a reckoning? Like these, I mean, both the legacy media and these new upstart media outlets that came out around like 2013 or so, your Vices and your BuzzFeeds and stuff. I mean, the legacy media has been on the deathbed for a long time, and those new Jack ones have too. I mean, they've been like maybe they had a little bit of lead time over the cable news channels, but like, I mean, does anybody read BuzzFeed News? Like, does anybody?
Yes,
read Vice?
that's where I get all of my information. BuzzFeed News.
I spoke
Yeah.
with somebody earlier today who expressed some concerns of, well, they know a lot of people like within the Republican establishment who are sort of expressing some concerns over whether or not the audience that Tucker had on Fox is actually going to follow him to a smaller network or an independent network or any of his next projects. So maybe they're just sort of trying to take him off the board again ahead of the 2024 election. He's too big of a figure to cancel completely, but the thinking is that some of the people who watched him on Fox may not follow him to any other platform and get the information that he was putting out.
That's my fear, and that's basically what I was saying yesterday.
But I think the basic conversation is that Brian Kilmeade is going to be a much more based version of Tucker Carlson. Everyone thinks Brian Kilmeade is the new Tucker.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing the kids say on Twitter.com.
It's actually, I guess it doesn't work. It's not funny because no one knows who Brian Kilmeade is, but
Right.
yeah, he's not Tucker
I mean,
Carlson.
Jesse Waters was the number 2 show, right?
Yeah, I mean, why don't they put Jesse in that slot?
Yeah,
Does anybody have a reason?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you why they should or shouldn't.
They should just not put anyone in that slot and just put dead air
Exactly. and now a moment of silence
for the next hour.
for the next hour in memory of Tucker Carlson. And then it just shows black and white pictures of him with sad piano music playing, and like Tucker Carlson, year of birth to 2023. So that's what they're going to do to convince the audience, like, he's dead, don't follow him anywhere. We never said he was dead. You can't take us to court, but they just mislead the audience into thinking he's dead so that they can effectively cancel him.
So I guess we have this video from Ocasio-Cortez. I'll play for you. I'm sorry that I have to do this to you, but we'll play it anyway. Is there no sound?
Out at Fox News.
Here we go.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country. I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled. Wow. And then you see like the villain's like hand.
Oh my gosh.
Reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works.
No,
and
it
it is
doesn't.
important.
Remember when
And,
Captain America deplatformed the Red
you
Skull in Marvel? It's just like Marvel, you guys. It's like the Avengers. A giant corrupt corporation fired him for speaking out against corporations and corporate. These like superheroes, bro.
Oh my goodness. Oh
What
my
I
goodness.
found fascinating about this is that she's celebrating an anti-war personality
Yes.
being removed from a major corporate network. And she doesn't care at all about Hannity or Laura Ingraham or any of their other personalities.
That's what I'm saying. You'd think she'd be able to see, okay, Tucker does have right-wing politics, and that's bad and scary. But you know what? Everyone else on Fox does as well, and Tucker is also anti-war, and he speaks out against corporate greed, but she is on the side of a lot of the corporations that he speaks out against, so it's not convenient, and I don't really think she's all that
Tucker
anti-war.
Carlson
Who are we dealing with here?
had that famous moment where he was doing the handoff with Hannity, and he was complaining about Amazon exploiting its workers or something like that.
Yes, and him and Hannity argued. He's like,
Yeah,
well,
Han-
some people like the free market, Tucker. And he's like,
Oh, no, but
what are you saying?
And he talks more like this. Some people want a good product from Amazon, they're allowed to buy it. And Tucker goes, for those that are just listening, I made a face.
So he's like, excuse me, idiot says what? He's like, what? And he's like, he just said he's an idiot. You heard it, America.
And then Hannity goes, Tucker, you said what in order to say that I was saying what? And then Tucker was like, oops.
And then that's what Tucker like was like, skirted out. Hard
But in all seriousness, though, I think that was a moment where it was fairly obvious. Tucker was getting the views and they liked it, but he was at odds with the GOP machine. I wonder if this play is more so because they want to get away from Trump and away from MAGA. Like people were saying, it's clearly about the Dominion lawsuit. It's like, well, Hannity and other personalities were talking a lot about the same thing too. And Tucker actually was rejecting the 2020 narrative from Trump.
Yeah.
And he got attacked for it by Trump supporters.
That's what I'm so confused about. Like if it was about the election and why would they not have gotten rid of Maria Bartiromo? And
Yeah, she was way more into
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
It's not.
Could he just be the first domino?
I mean, it would
a big
be.
domino.
I got to be honest. It would be like the coolest thing ever if, like, within the next 2 weeks, every single Fox personality is fired.
Except Sean Hannity. He's the only guy there. He has to
they-
fill all 24 hours. He's just like, I'm not sleeping anymore. Now he knows how the Amazon workers feel. He's just never sleeping. And he's like, maybe
Today's
there should be
episode-
labor laws or something. I don't know. It's,
union.
it's crazy.
union.
Maybe I need a union or something.
Today's 24-hour cycle is brought to you by modafinil. Do you guys know what modafinil is?
No.
It's what snipers and astronauts take. It's a pill that makes you don't gotta sleep.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I took it for,
Yeah.
it was like a narcolepsy drug in the 60s in France. I took that after my brain injury, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the brand name is Provigil or something. And apparently you don't gotta sleep if you take it.
How many times can you take it before you die?
I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know enough about it, but like truckers do it illegally or something. But like it's astronauts and snipers actually use it, and you just stay awake.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, Serge. Do you know how long you can take it before dying?
It's not that nice to take. It doesn't have like abuse potential. It makes you feel like terrible, like your skin gets super dry. So I wouldn't, it's not a party drug. It's not like Adderall or anything like that.
like
But
meth.
yeah, not like meth. I don't know. It would,
Okay.
I don't imagine it take that much. You'd probably die pretty quick. Actually, it's very strong.
Wow. Good to know.
So what is it? It's like for people who can't sleep properly, they have narcolepsy or whatever.
Yeah, if you have narcolepsy, it just it keeps you awake during the daytime, so you don't fall asleep while you're taking it. Basically, I don't know what it does.
Sucks. So
Well,
weird.
ladies and
It's
gentlemen,
weird.
Ocasio-Cortez was celebrating the departure of Tucker Carlson, but one other institution was also celebrating: the Pentagon. From Politico, good riddance. Pentagon officials cheer Tucker Carlson's ouster.
It's just like Avengers. This is just so much like the Avengers movies that I like. Hey guys, this is like those movies I saw once about the superheroes.
Which one?
Were they Avenge?
No, The Boys, where Homelander's
Oh my
Trump,
gosh.
and he kills a protester and they cheer for it.
I never
was-
saw that.
You didn't see The Boys?
Oh, it was
okay,
so
spoiler, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
dude, you ruined it.
I really recommend the show because it's hilarious, but it's very obvious that. So it's basically like Justice League, Batman, Superman, etc. But they make the characters flawed or something like that. And Homelander, basically Superman, is Trump, and so he has rallies and stuff like that. And he's political, and it's like the show didn't start this way. But the crazy thing is, I'm pretty sure the character Stormfront, a literal Nazi, is Laura Loomer.
Oh
we
my
talked
God.
we talked about it before.
Makes sense.
But
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. Like, I think they actually tried getting a character who looked like her and made the character Stormfront, and then were trying to like basically. I don't think the show was directly making a statement about Laura Loomer. I think they were inspired by.
I
the
mean, she
media
doesn't
reports.
look like her.
The character Stormfront.
She's hot.
What? But the character looks like Laura Loomer. The character Stormfront, like similar stature.
The actress.
Yeah. So and then they said, I think now we have like the reporting is they actually were trying to base Homelander off Trump. But here's the thing: in the show, Homelander at the end of the last season is like, he's got his son with him and he's at a rally, and then some liberal throws a water bottle, hits his kid, and then Homelander just laser beams him and blows him up or whatever, and then everyone cheers for it. And I'm like, I'm fairly certain that if Donald Trump did do something like that, people would not be cheering. Sorry, it's just not reality.
No, you could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. No one would care.
But like, if Donald Trump did go on Fifth Avenue with a gun and shot somebody, Trump supporters would be like, "What happened? Why did this happen?" If Donald Trump went on a murderous rampage, people would be like, "Yo, I don't know about all that." But like the way the liberals view it is they make this TV show where Trump is basically Superman, which is also a weird insinuation to make. Like they think Trump is literally Superman and they don't like it. And then he kills a guy and they think Trump supporters are like, yay! They live in a very, very strange, scary world. But anyway, before Seamus got all excited about superheroes.
The point is, in an interview, AOC was asked about if America's heading for another civil war. And she's like, well, there's a part of history that's similar to this. Captain America, when him and Iron Man fought, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to let go of this. This is ridiculous. Elected leaders referencing Marvel movies. It's our common language now. This is the state religion. It's a bizarre pop cultural polytheism. And they look to these superheroes like it's their pantheon of gods, and it's extremely embarrassing and pathetic.
Their pantheon.
It is.
Well, so the story is the Pentagon is also there with AOC. And my point was, AOC was supposed to be this insurgent character who was coming into the Democrat Party and being like, I am here for young people and we don't like the machine. And now she's like, woo, Pentagon, we're in this together. So, you know.
Yeah, they're on the same team. It's Captain America. We came together.
To be fair, Captain America was a DoD project.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, the U.S. government.
No, that is true. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's how it gets into their heads, right? It's very industrial military complexy.
Seamus, you gotta let it go.
No, you're right. No, but here's a fun fact. So before World War II, superheroes usually just kind of like solved problems in their own communities in the comics. Like they would beat someone up who was doing bad things in their cities. And then it was during World War II that they started making all the comics about like the superhero saving the world. Yeah, so the industrial military complex changed the narrative on
'cause
superheroes.
Batman was a
Industrial
detective.
military complex?
I don't know if I'm not saying it was a concerted effort by them,
Military
but the
industrial complex?
military industrial complex, whatever we want to call it today, Tim. My point is just that the war effort changed the way that people saw superheroes, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
And they're a convenient propaganda tool, which
And
is
now-
why
and
we're in
now-
love with them again.
They have, it was trending. I guess RT offered Tucker a job.
Wow.
Yeah, he should take it.
Wait, you mean like within the last day?
Yeah, I think that was the reporting. I mean, let me pull it up. And the left was like, this proves it.
Let's check it out.
Tucker Carlson offered jobs at, okay. Let's get out of here with this stupid video. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News, but welcome on Russian TV. The ousted anchor was offered work by the state-run news channel in Moscow that echo much of his conspiratorial rhetoric on the war in Ukraine.
Wait, what's the byline on this? Is it Ben Collins?
Patrick
Oh.
Smith. Oh, Ben Collins. That dude once made up a fake story about me.
What?
Really?
Yeah, he made up a fake story. I can't remember exactly what it was, and then the Today Show ran it. What was it? It was I can't remember the exact story, but they included some leftist activist, this is my understanding of what happened, made a super, you know how they have those activists who will take clips of you and then mash them together to make it seem like you said something different. But they're meant to be humorous, so it'd be like a weird colors. It's like someone made a video accusing me of saying a thing that was like out of context and combined with other things. And then he ran the story, and then it got picked up by a bunch of other outlets that ran it saying like, hey, you can't get mad at us. NBC News reported it. NBC News then removed the citation. So it created a dead citation. So a bunch of other media outlets were all referencing each other, referencing something with no source. That's how they play. That's how they play the game.
Ben Collins wrote a piece. I wish I could remember which piece it was. It was something about Russian disinformation and bots. That in the Twitter files, this Michael Schellenberger found the email where they're like Joel Roth, the head of Trust and Safety, is calling bullshit on this story about Ben Collins. Like in the emails, he's like, "This is fraudulent. There's nothing here. This is complete propaganda." That was Ben Collins' story. He hasn't retracted it yet.
Well, I'm looking forward to the rest of the media collapsing.
The rest of the what?
The rest of the media.
Oh, the rest of the, yeah.
Seamus, are you just daydreaming over there?
I was thinking about the
Potatoes?
Avengers films and how much I love them. Yeah, I was thinking about potatoes. I was thinking about the time you had a potato on the show while I was gone and put my name on the title. That was great.
Had a potato on the show.
I'm suing.
It's funny because we did that.
They literally did that to me. They're bad friends.
Yeah, we put a potato in that chair, and then we put Seamus in the title card and put a picture of the potato. I mean, it's hilarious.
I am curious about this though, right? So what happens from here? Let's say all of traditional media collapses. Ooh, I mean, does the government and the deep state and the corporate world all give up and go, I guess we lost? I mean, no, they'll infiltrate social media because big tech already leans in their direction.
Like Skrulls, the shape-shifting aliens from the Marvel
That's
movies.
exactly, yes, thank you so much.
I mean,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
They already have that apparatus constructed in
Yeah.
social media. That's what we've been reporting on with the censorship industrial complex. I mean, they've got every platform basically except for Twitter at this point because of Elon Musk's takeover. So like, yeah, if it reverts to social media, it's not a problem for them.
But let me ask you about this. Is Elon being like, do you have free reign? Are you able to just access the files, or is Elon like dripping them out to you and giving you selective information?
No, definitely not the latter. How it worked was we would go in there and then we would ask for searches. So we'd say, do a search on, this is an enormous trove of files. So every email, every Slack message. So we'd have to say, I want to see the emails from Vijay Gaddy between this date and this date, say a 5-day span or something. And then they would go and run the search. They would go to another room and run the search. And the reason why they were doing the stuff in another room is because they were extremely paranoid about our seeing any user data, because that's a serious liability for Twitter. So they had to do everything they could to make absolutely sure that what we were getting back was just internal stuff, nothing with user data. And then when they would come back with thousands of emails, thousands of Slack messages, depending upon what we're asking for, and then we'd spend days going through them. So there was no way I've heard the accusations that they were like cherry picking this stuff. No.
Well, I like what they're doing, but I think Elon needs to hire an internal liaison. Basically, they need to hire you directly for Twitter so that you as an employee are able to see user data. Then you can choose what to search for without limitation. It's very, very difficult to know what you don't know. It's impossible to know what to look for if you don't know what exists.
Yeah.
And so a good component about going through these documents is going to be just sifting through at random raw data and then finding threads. But without being able to access that system and peruse it, you don't know what to search for. So so what's happening now is with the Twitter files is I think you guys are scratching the surface. Yeah, a lot of the information is damning, but it's what we expect. What about searching for something that no one thought to search for? You know what I mean? I wouldn't know. That's the challenge. So like this is also the issue with the Hunter Biden laptop. People don't know what to look for. So it took them a year to find certain stories. We had stories from the Daily Mail coming out, exclusive. Hunter Biden laptop reveals, Joe Biden was involved in this deal, and like a year after the laptop came out, because you have to go through 50,000 emails. And then you have to find the context. So there might be an email being like, hey, I confirmed that meeting with the big guy you asked about. Then you can't search for Joe Biden doing deals. You can't search for corruption. You can search for the big guy. Then you can find an email being like, hey, we're on for tonight at 10 p.m. See you there. And then you're like, who's this guy? What is he doing? If you went to someone with a laptop and said, search for Joe Biden in the emails, you wouldn't find that one. But that one combined with another one proves he was involved in certain business dealings, which is, news that came out a year later.
Right.
So this is the challenge with the censorship stuff, because it's probably worse than we realize. How do we search through this stuff?
So you go to them with search criteria. How do you know that what you're getting back is the complete picture? How do you know it's all the information that's available when they hand you a little dossier of, let's say, 2,000 documents? How do you know it's not 3,000 or 4,000?
Well, so first of all, it's important to know that like Elon, when we came into the Twitter files, Elon Musk had just taken over the company. He didn't know what was in these emails. He hadn't been there. The people running the searches were people who were brought in from Tesla and SpaceX, because he'd fired half the staff of Twitter, and later on he fired some more, and he replaced them with people from his other companies. And so they had no idea. Like they were like trying to hold this company together with duct tape and bubble gum while running these very time-intensive searches for us. They didn't actually want to be helping us. They wanted to be doing their regular jobs, but this was kind of a task to them. So first of all, like nobody knew what was in there before we saw it. I mean, maybe some old guard Twitter people, but all these folks were new, were just as fresh to this as we were. And then it would be obvious if there was stuff missing, because we would see email threads that would just suddenly end.
Did you actually see that?
No, we saw no evidence of anything missing. Like you would expect to see email threads starting with nothing like out of the blue, and email. None of that.
Is Elon still giving you access to all the files?
Not at the present moment, but we hope to be back in.
Why not?
I don't know. I mean, he's Elon, right?
But like, he was like, okay, guys, no more searching. Have a nice day.
No, it was more like we did our searches, we did our reporting. Where we hope to have an opportunity to go back in. That would obviously be at his invitation. We can't go in there without him. But that's not at this particular moment. Like we hope to be back in.
Did you ask to search for Alex Jones?
We did not do that search. That's an interesting one to do.
But that's also part of my point. Like without being able to just get free reign, so much is limited, and the Alex Jones thing could prove collusion between the networks at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, we did have free reign while we were in there, and we hope to be back in there. But to your point, yeah, we would need to be
like,
for months.
Here's a hard drive.
Yeah.
Start digging. You didn't have that.
Well, no, but I don't know.
I understand why.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, because of the user data thing.
Right.
And I don't think they can just separate that. Also, this is a massive amount of data. It's like we were running searches on, it's all the emails, all the Slack messages at Twitter for years. This is like, it's not like you can just put it on an external hard drive.
So the Alex, so this is one of the issues I took with, I don't blame Elon Musk for his selection in journalists. I think he actually did a really good job of choosing some people to bring on to go through this. It's the best he could have done. But there's probably a lot of people who should have been given. Yeah, it was too. I feel like the people he chose to go through this are in a similar political space.
True. Also, it's important to point out that he did not choose everybody who went in there. He chose, basically, he reached out to Barry and Matt Taibbi. And then Barry brought in Michael Schellenberger. Michael brought me in. I brought Li Fong in. Matt had a team that he brought in. So he basically invited 2 people, and then they picked the rest of the people. So this hand-picked journalist.
Man, and he's like mad at Matt and Barry now, isn't he?
He's not mad at Barry anymore.
Oh, okay, that's good.
He's cool with Barry. He's there was a little flap, but it was just over her like tweeting something critical about his like picking on that employee or something. It was just nothing. Matt, yeah, Matt's not Matt. And, well, this has all been reported out. I'm not
right.
But yeah, they're
I
on
think
outs.
probably one of the most important searches after federal government involvement is Alex Jones, because that looked like a cascade. It looked like a conspiracy to take one man off of all of these different platforms. I also wonder if Elon would be like, no, you can't search that one, because he's outright said he won't let Alex back on the platform.
Right. Well, if he did, then we would report that out that he refused to.
Is there anything that you haven't been allowed to?
No,
query?
nothing.
Except
I've never
for now
seen
that access is basically shut off.
Yeah, but it's not shut off. It's not so much. It's not like he said you can't come back in. It's just like we had our time, we did our reporting, and then we have to be kind of like invited back in. You know, it's not like we can't just walk in there. We don't have like passes that we can just use any time of the day. So, you know, I don't think we've been shut out. It's just, I think we'll be back in there is what I'll say. But, you know, speaking of conspiracies, like this stuff, the Hunter Biden laptop stuff, it was just reported that the origin of the Russian disinfo meme came from the Biden campaign. Yep. And this has been reported by like 2 outlets. Like, it's like, this is a huge story that spells out a literal psyop. We put all these pieces together about how the Hunter Biden laptop story was, you know, the FBI had the computer, they had subpoenaed it, there was a receipt, those were both published in the New York Post. We knew, so the FBI definitely had the computer, and yet they were running around to these platforms saying, we think that there's going to be a what appears to be a Russian hack and leak dump in a couple of days. This is just like within days of the New York Post story breaking, going to the platforms and warning them of a hack for information that they knew to be true, assuming that they were talking about the Hunter Biden laptop, which seems like it'd be a big coincidence if they didn't. Then in the meantime, the Atlantic Council had organized like a tabletop exercise a few weeks before the story dropped, where they invited like national security reporters from the New York Times, all these bigwigs to run a tabletop exercise. What would happen if there was a Russian hack and leak operation intended to affect the election involving Hunter Biden? And then they all gamed out, well, we would suppress that and we would like call it disinformation. And then so all this stuff was already like, and this has all been documented, and it looked like a big conspiracy and psyop. And then we find out, because Jim Jordan released this letter, that it was that Tony Blinken had called Michael Morrell, the acting director of the former acting director of the CIA, and didn't ask for, but said, we're very concerned about this New York Post story. And then Michael Morrell went on to organize all those intelligence officers who signed that letter, saying that this has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, which kicked off the entire thing of discrediting the story. And it was at the behest of the Biden campaign. And this has now been reported, verified. Fucking nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, we actually covered that on my podcast yesterday, and it's so insane that somebody from a presidential campaign could reach out to connections in our intelligence agencies to get them to fabricate a letter with the names of 50 different intelligence officials on it, saying that this is Russian disinformation. So now you have the added element of them blaming a foreign power for something which is unbelievably irresponsible, so that they can try to get their candidate elected. And Trump is indicted because his campaign supposedly, paid off Stormy Daniels at his behest, and they should have disclosed that. Like, that's a greater example of corruption than the deep state operating at the behest of a member of a presidential campaign.
Take a look at this. We got this story from Spiked, And I always love to give you guys the NewsGuard certification, 100 out of 100. That's right. It is NewsGuard certified. And people are like, that's the government. So the government certified it. Call it whatever you want. Joe Biden's sinister disinformation campaign. They say last week it was revealed that shortly before the 2020 election, Joe Biden's presidential campaign conspired with 51 former spies to discredit the New York Post discoveries from the Hunter Biden laptop. That is to say, a person running for office conspired with government officials to discredit a news story that could harm their campaign.
And by the way, when Michael Morell was asked under oath why he did it, he said it was because he wanted Joe Biden to be elected. He just straight up said that.
Because you can get away with it, right? It's a two-tier system.
Yeah. They let you when you're famous. What's the quote?
Oh my gosh.
Oof. So, well, there you go. Does this mean that the country doesn't exist or something?
It means it's not our country anymore.
Yeah, it's like being worn as a skin suit by a cult, creepy, corrupt individuals, just doing whatever they want. We're sitting here watching. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right with it, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm doing all right with it.
obviously, talk about this a bit. My hope is not in this world. I think we could still win this battle, though.
No, I think we're winning. I think it simply comes down to the reason they're going after kids so much is because they know that if they don't, they're done. 20 years from now, all these conservative kids are going to be like, I vote against you. And they're not going to have kids because, they sterilize and abort them. So,
But also the thing is, if they do go after the kids and really normalize pedophilia, as they're clearly starting to do and gearing up to do, then there's no way for us to win. Like once that is taken from you, once they win that, there's nothing.
I just disagree. I mean, there's too much required to get to that point where a conservative can't just move to the middle of nowhere and keep their kids away from this stuff.
Yeah, but the fact that you'd have to move to the middle of nowhere to get away from people trying to abuse your kids means you have lost the society.
You actually can't do that now because now California and I forget what other state, but another state as well, have passed laws.
Washington.
Was it Washington? Was this? You're talking about the sanctuary thing? So they passed laws that if you're in a marital dispute over your child transitioning, one parent can take that child and go to California, and then that case will be adjudicated in California, not in the state of the other parent. So basically you can kidnap your kid. And then there was another law that was passed in California that was, I can't remember if it passed or if it's set to be passed, but that's basically instructing judges that when they hear these kinds of cases, essentially telling them to lean in favor of transitioning being in the welfare of the child. So in other words, you can move to wherever you want to, but if you're in the U.S., and you have a dispute with your spouse over this, your spouse can just take your kid to California. So you don't have that safe harbor.
And there was also something else I saw the other day about, I'd have to pull up the state again, but they just passed legislation saying that these shelters don't have to report runaways to their parent if they identify as trans, and that's why they've run away.
Your kid can check into a residential rehab facility without the consent of their parents. It just takes like a social worker or a psychologist saying, yeah, I think that this is in the kid's best interest.
And undergo abortion services and also gender transition hormone therapy. I don't know if surgery is included, but some hormone sex change procedures are without the consent of either parent.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the new paradigm, right? Historically, our understanding was parents have the final say over what happens to their child. And if the government is going to get involved, they need to prove that they have a very good reason. They need to demonstrate that this child is being abused to the point where the state has to step in. Now it's the exact opposite.
Right.
The state has the final say over what your kid gets to do. The parent has to prove that they should have their concerns heard about their own child.
The law in California that is just referred to, actually, the law was they took the existing statute, which said that a kid can check into a residential rehab facility if, number one, a psychologist or social worker or something recommends it, and number two, that kid has been abused or a victim of incest in the household. In those cases, the prior law was, in those cases, that kid could go to a residential rehab facility without the parents' consent. That's a good law. That makes sense, right? The new law just struck out the part about abuse or victim of incest.
Well, they're going to say the parents are the abusers for not willing to transition their kids.
Because it's projection. Because the left never says, we're not doing that, or what we're doing isn't as bad as what you think. They say, you're doing it. We're not abusing these kids. You're abusing these kids.
Right. So it's state kidnapping.
Yep.
I mean, that's basically what it is. It's the state is allowed to kidnap your kid. So, like, I didn't watch the full video with what Biden said. I watched the little segment where he was talking about, you don't own your kids or whatever. So I don't want to speak to what the context was. I don't want to be surprised by but it is sort of like in the context of these laws that are being passed. I feel like I tweeted about this, like 20 years ago, the religious right used to talk about how the left wanted to destroy the nuclear family. And at the time, I thought that was ridiculous and hyperbole. And it probably was ridiculous and hyperbole at the time. But now it's like, well, that's actually what these laws amount to. They're saying that the parent doesn't need to give consent, that the biggest threats to the children come from the parents, and that the state and psychologists and social workers need to take custody of that kid to protect them from their parents.
Yeah, we got sanctuary states now for sex change surgeries.
Yep.
What did Joe Biden just say today, Seamus?
He said that you don't own your child, the nation does. He's like, it's not your kid, it's not someone else's kid, it's the nation's kid, to paraphrase.
What a creep.
Yeah, it's extremely creepy.
Yeah.
I get to sniff. You can't tell me not to sniff their hair, man. I'm gonna get those hairs in my nostrils.
But I think to what you're saying, that it's probably true that your average liberal person 20 years ago wasn't going about the revolutionary change that they were trying to instate by saying, I want to destroy the family. But all of the intellectual thought leaders of the left going back decades did openly say that was their goal.
True. I mean, yeah, the radical fringe of the left was definitely saying those things, like the nuclear family is an oppressive structure, blah, 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 blah. And who cares, right? Because there's a radical fringe on the left, there's a radical fringe on the right, and they're all crazy, and we can just like ignore them for the most part. That used to be the case.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, so that's the difference, right? It was like normie liberals, and it remains the case that normie liberals don't want to destroy the nuclear family. But we are in a situation in which those radical fringe activists now can't be ignored anymore, because they have power over state legislators, and they have power over federal legislators, arguably, but certainly state legislators in California. So now this stuff is becoming law,
and it's going to spread, because they're what's happening on the left right now too is they're working with younger people to get them elected into these offices. Moms Demand Action, some of the anti-gun organizations are working with 18 to 24-year-olds to teach them and train them how to get into these positions so they can start changing the law from the inside and expanding that agenda.
Yeah.
Welcome to the new country, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm still confident that we're going to win, though. I just think it's math. We can talk about all the things they want to do to kids and how they want to create these sanctuary states. But the reality is, if you keep your kids away from this cultural influence, they've lost.
So I think part of what you're saying is that when people do the right thing and have good ideas and behave virtuously, in the long run, they win, because people who are doing bad things and behaving in vicious ways end up eating themselves alive and their society collapses. But if the rot spreads so far within your culture that it completely usurps it, well, then your entire civilization collapses before that good can eventually win out once people try to rebuild from the ashes. And I'm not saying that that's a guarantee here. What I am saying is I agree with you that in the long run, good wins, but that doesn't mean America is still around 100 years from now.
America will be around. It just won't be the same. And I'm not saying that there won't be a collapse, a long fall, or a civil war, or whatever. I'm just
I know
saying
you're not saying there won't be a civil war or collapse.
Yeah, the right's going to win. It's basically, there's like historical precedents. Very rarely do I mean, let's put it this way. The left, they aren't anti-gun. Liberals are anti-gun.
Yeah.
The left likes guns. But you still can't compare a soy boy to like a military veteran. Yeah. And the left likes to show these big fat militia guys, and they're like, haha, like that guy could go toe-to-toe with the National Guardsman. And it's like, dude, the National Guard would be split the same as any other part of this country. And I got news for these guys. The big fat militia guy probably is still better trained with a gun than a soy boy. Than someone like leftist Antifa guy. The left has the John Brown Gun Club and like a bunch of these, the Socialist Rifle Association or whatever. Right. And those guys are probably a lot better with weapons. But that big fat militia guy is going to be better than the average thin, scrawny vegan soy boy dude. I mean, isn't it really hyperpolarizing though to see these distinct individuals, these stereotypes? On the right, you have the stereotype of the morbidly obese militia guy. And on the left, you have the gaunt and frail Antifa guy. Isn't it kind of weird? Maybe it's something to do with being vegan. No offense to vegans. I got no beef. I'm just saying, a lot of vegans aren't getting enough protein.
They don't got no beef either, bro.
Quite literally, no beef. Yeah. No beef. Yeah, so I don't know. Long story short, I just don't see how the left can possibly win if they don't have kids.
I mean, one thing to pay attention to is that a lot of the stuff with the trans stuff, and I want to stipulate this by saying I do not have a problem with adults transitioning. Don't care. That's fine. Do what you want to. It's the kids who concerns me. But a lot of it's the bluest cities in the bluest states where a lot of this, where the most affirming is happening, both not just at the medical level, but also in the schools and just in the general culture. So it's parents of kids who are gender questioning or whatever in your Brooklyns and in your San Franciscos who are coming face to face with the stark reality of how deep and pervasive this stuff is, and they're getting red pilled. Like when they see this happening to their kid is questioning, they're supportive, right? They're like being super supportive. They know the right things to do, but then they go to the therapist, and their therapist is like, oh, well, your kid is definitely trans and we need to put him on hormones. They're like, wait, well, what?
You can have a trans kid or a dead kid. They emotionally blackmail these people, mutilate your kid.
And they might go further even, but then the kid starts to regret it, and then it becomes this whole mess, and then the parents are studying this stuff along the way. They're looking up, these are like, upper middle class, laptop class people. They're looking up the medical studies. They're reading the medical studies. They're realizing that there's actually no medical basis to the claim that that puberty blockers are reversible. All that stuff, and then they start to question everything.
And then up to 95% of dysphoric people grow out of it in puberty.
Right.
There was a story about a family who said that they were very leftist, very pro-trans, very supportive, until one day their son came out and said he was trans, and they were like, "What? No, you're not." And so they started talking like to him and to each other like, you have no symptoms of this. You don't show nothing of this. Why are you saying this? When they brought the kid into counselors and stuff, the counselor said, no, he's definitely trans. Right. And then they said, these things aren't true though. Basically, like the kid was saying, oh yeah, I used to do this, I used to do that, I used to do this. And the parents were like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
And they were like, you're just denying your son's lived experience and all of these things. And the family then basically said, we realized a lot of this stuff was being pushed on our kid who was just trying to fit in and going along with it. And it was freaky to see the whole machine pushing in this direction. Yeah. To make your kid be this way.
By the way, a huge proportion of those kids are autistic as well.
Right.
This came out with the Tavistock stuff.
They don't know how to fit in socially.
Right.
And so when someone says this is what's socially acceptable, they just agree.
Right. It's easy to blame all your problems. If you were abused, you have trauma, whatever. You have other mental disorders, all this stuff, and it's like somebody comes to you with a solution. They're like, oh, well, all of this is a clear sign of gender dysphoria, and all you have to do is take this drug, and everything will be okay. That's just a very seductive proposition to a kid who's.
Let's jump to this story actually, and then we'll carry on this conversation because this is epic. We have this from the Daily Mail. Bud Light's hangover gets worse. Rival Coors Light and Miller Lite sales spike 18% in wake of Dylan Mulvaney debacle. Check this out. Between April 2nd and April 15th, overall volume of sales of Bud Light at bars and restaurants dropped by 34.7%. Can I get a holy crap? That's massive. So the boycott's certainly working. And I don't know what it is, but I mean, I should put it this way. I have an idea of what I think it is. I think what they basically did was they came out and said that Bud Light is the beer for effeminate millennials. Mm-hmm. And so all of these, middle-aged guys was like, I don't drink that. I don't drink Bud Light. Mm-hmm. Bud Light already had a bad reputation for being like piss water.
Yeah.
But who cares? If you're at a bar and you're like, I just want to get drunk. But now it's piss water that's associated with being effeminate and being, kind of uncool. They've effectively made their brand not cool. And so now you've got middle-aged dudes being like, I don't drink that. Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's also just like people don't want this stuff politicized, right? It's like it's the same with the NBA or, the whatever. It's like people just like, they're like, give me a break, right? Let me drink my beer. Let me watch my basketball game without being pushed with a political message, whichever side it comes from, although it only comes from one side.
I think that only goes so far. Because we've seen that with a lot of things. Video games, people are still willing to play a video game that gets politicized if they're like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. People are still willing to watch certain TV shows that are like moderately woke to a certain degree, so long as it's not that in your face.
Right.
But when it comes to beer, I think what they did was they just made the beer, they got a very effeminate individual, Dylan Mulvaney, to sponsor it, and that's the image associated with it now.
Yeah.
Well, so if you are a Bud Light drinker, it's like, does some 40-year-old dude at a ball game want to be seen as like a dude at a nightclub with a frilly pink dress? Probably not.
Yeah, you made a point a moment ago about how people will watch something on television even though it's woke because they find it entertaining. Part of the difference is you advertise the things you consume in terms of food or beverage differently than you advertise what you see on TV. You can kind of have a TV show that other people don't know you watch. And so you're watching something a little more woke or people wouldn't expect from you. But if that's if that's the beer you order at the bar, or even if you want to drink that beer in secret, like, it's in your fridge, dude.
Seamus
Someone can open it and
watches
see.
reruns of Will and Grace.
That's
all
my
day.
favorite show ever, of
funny
course.
Yeah, it is a funny show. But yeah, you're right. Out in public, you have to.
I disavow, by the way. I don't watch Will and Grace. Tim is once again smearing me because Luke was in his DMs crying about the fact that I'm stealing his thunder. And so I'm competition that has to be taken out. But anyway.
Anyway, what was I talking? I totally lost my train of thought because you were talking about potatoes or something.
I'm sorry. That is see. This is like the kind of racism I have to tolerate every single time I'm here. You were talking about the fact that we were just talking about how people can hide the media that they
right. When
consume,
you're
but
out in public and
Yeah.
you're drinking a Bud Light, you're making a political statement now.
Do you think how, like, I guess I feel like you have to ask this about every story now, like how much of this stuff has pervaded regular people?
This
in
has.
their
This
lives?
has.
It has.
For sure.
It's not just like
I have
on
people
Twitter.
asking me about it when I'm at the casinos or whatever.
Really?
Like I'm at a poker table and people are like, yeah, what's up with that thing? That was weird. Like, I'm not going to drink that. And then there was one where, you know, they have like the lady will come around asking for drinks. And then someone made a crack like, not a Bud Light. And then everybody chuckles. And I'm like, man, like people know this.
Well, you know, it's funny. It used to be that people would be like, I mean, people used to ask the question, or I still ask the question that I just asked, which is like, is this just for the terminally online or normies getting this? And actually, we're in an age where everybody's terminally online. So,
it's true.
If it's pervading your bubble, it's pervading a lot of people's bubbles.
But even so, I mean, your average person, you don't need to be terminally online to say, why is this guy in a dress and makeup on my beer? And when you talk to a lot of people at the casino or just in general, I can't speak to your casino experience, but you ask them, how did you feel about that Bud Light thing? Or do you support Dylan Mulvaney? You know, maybe if they're more online, like we are, more into politics, they'll sort of launch into their explanation of why it's bad for the culture. But your average person just like, no, I don't support that. What? That's weird.
But
I just don't like it. But they won't give you.
Can, right? They're not selling those ones.
No, no, no.
Not anymore. No.
They were never selling it.
Right.
Oh.
And so what the left said was, oh, it's all over one commemorative can that wasn't for sale, but it's not. Dylan Mulvaney had a video where he had a stack of beer cans and was smiling and being like, look, drink this stuff. And then I don't even know what March Madness is. So it's like you are insulting your core market.
Oh, totally.
And then the VP came out and she was like, we don't like this frat humor and we want to change our audience. And it's not only, so that's the thing. I see more than just Dylan Mulvaney. I see they came out and actually spat in the face of their audience. And now the fact that they fired, I'm sorry, I should say, but the fact they put two executives on leave from their marketing team without actually apologizing is they're probably going to the shareholders being like, don't worry, we got rid of these people. But they hate you, their former customer, so much they won't just apologize. Nobody asked them to put anybody on leave. Yeah. I did not come on the show and say, I demand they remove and fire this woman. I said, just say we're sorry for sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. We didn't mean to be divisive and to upset anybody. And they were like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to quietly remove these people to save our stock because that's what really matters. And then we're going to say nothing to you and hope you just forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, they were looking for a class of consumer that was higher status in their view. You know, frat guys, they're embodying toxic masculinity and they're bigoted. There's just all sorts of baggage tied up with anything that's involved with fraternity or manhood. And of course, Dylan Mulvaney, it's new, trendy, and supportive of transgenderism, which is the most trendy thing on the planet right now. And those people are just better than you. And that's why we want their money and not yours.
That's right. Because we here at Bud Light are better than you. And we know it.
Exactly. And we need better customers.
No, they know that they screwed up.
Yeah.
But I think I'm at the point where I was saying this earlier, that if they don't issue a formal apology by this week, and I'm not saying to fire anybody, I'm not saying to write a 500-page manifesto. I'm saying outright just be like,
manifesto.
we are sorry for sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney. We hope to retain you as customers. We apologize for a divisive ad. You know, thank you and have a nice day. I'd be like, okay, that's it. That's fine. That's all. That's it.
I think a lot of people wouldn't, though. I think there is really like a bad taste that's been left in people's mouths.
At this point, that's what I'm saying.
Want it. Yeah.
I'm saying at this point, their unwillingness to actually just be like, hey, our bad. We didn't mean to sponsor this person. We didn't know you get pissed off. We did not realize who this person was. We won't do it again. Their unwillingness to say anything close to that says to me, they literally don't care about you and they don't care if they get you back. So I'm like, at this point, I'm not a Bud Light guy. I'm not an Anheuser guy. I actually really like Modelo, but I don't drink a whole lot. But I will have no problem saying I will never forgive the company if they've gone this far without just being like, hey, we're sorry about this. So what I would like to say is I will never buy another Bud Light again if they don't apologize this week. But I really don't buy Bud Light, so it's kind of meaningless. I will say this, the events we're doing, we did this in Texas, we pulled all Anheuser products from the show.
Good for you.
So anybody who came in, they could not buy it. Not that anyone wanted to. We were making fun of Bud Light the whole time.
What do you think the insult is to the consumers exactly? Is it that it's kind of a troll and saying
The consumers
kind of condescending?
The consumers got mad. They said, hey, we're upset about this. So Bud Light goes, I got an idea. Let's ignore them. Then the boycott persisted over the holiday weekend. And the pundits were like, whoa, this is crazy. Conservatives don't normally do this. So then Bud Light was like, let's keep ignoring them. Then on Friday, they came out and said, we don't like to be divisive. Thank you. And everyone's like, what is this statement? It's nothing. Then they put out a commercial about a horse running through America, and it runs to New York to never forget 9/11. And it was insulting to do. I started getting Budweiser ads, and I'm like, what is this? Just say sorry. So now what's insulting is they keep doing these things without apologizing, as if we're too stupid to realize what we're upset about. And instead of apologizing, they put two marketing execs on leave. That only assuages the fears of shareholders and not customers. And now we're going on to week 3 without them saying, sorry about that, guys. They're clearly at a point where they're like, if we lose this customer base, so be it. F them.
The thing is that, while I can understand why Bud Light drinkers would be insulted by the company, Dylan Mulvaney himself, I'm just going to say himself, is just this walking insult to half the population of the country of women,
but also trans people.
And also trans people. Absolutely, he's a parody of trans people.
Yep,
and he's like think if you did this, he's like a jigaboo for women.
People,
it's like is that the right word? Like he's just like he's like this the equivalent of a racist.
It's like a modern day minstrel show.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's, and people say it's woman face. I think Dylan Mulvaney is doing trans face.
Right.
I think I don't draw a distinction between the two, but
no, there is. And I know everyone's heard me say it, but I'll explain it just for your sake, Seamus, and for those that may not have heard it. People with gender dysphoria don't sing about their bulges to 10 million people. People with gender dysphoria feel anxiety, and that's what gender dysphoria is. Their body gives them anxiety. Could you imagine an anorexic person making a video being like, look how fat I am, and squeezing their rolls? No, that gives them anxiety. They don't want to be fat. Dylan Mulvaney is the opposite of what you'd actually expect from a person suffering gender dysphoria, singing songs about his bulge.
Right.
What he's done is he's capitalized on the algorithm. He's exploited the left, who will support this to no end, to create a mockery of trans people and women, and then get corporate protection and sponsorship to do it.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable where we're at.
He's actually literally a transphobe.
I mean,
I don't know if he has. I'm not saying that he has contempt for trans people, but I'm saying that the character that he plays is hateful to trans people.
Right, like
That's
like
the
you were saying,
impact, even if it's not the intent.
Right.
like a minstrel show.
And I think I think his intent is he's a theater kid who found a shtick that's making him rich and getting him a lot of attention. I don't think it's anything more complicated than that.
Yep.
You know.
And Dylan Mulvaney has not posted since the controversy started. So we're now going into week 3 of no posts from Dylan Mulvaney. And I've said this the other day. The people who are in Dylan's life, family members over, need to give him an intervention and be like, stop this. It's going too far. You know, they're, like I mentioned this the other day, there are trans YouTubers pointing out that Dylan's not doing things typically associated with being trans, doesn't appear to be taking estrogen, doesn't appear to be getting actual feminization. So Dylan got facial surgery, but people are pointing out not laser hair removal, which is the cheaper and faster procedure, but permanent. And so the insinuation is Dylan expects this to run its course at some point.
Absolutely. And then it'll be on to the next thing.
Right. And then Dylan will just be a detransitioner.
Yeah.
Or just, whatever.
Yeah.
And Budweiser will have made their bed, and I honestly think there's no way Budweiser gets out of this. They tried doing the Clydesdale commercial to be like, we're patriotic and we love America, but they already have become the brand.
Are you telling me that in addition to the bank industry failing and the entire media failing, Budweiser is going to fail too?
I don't know about failing. I'm just saying their brand is this now. They're the brand of pride parades and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't care about that, but there's going to be a lot of middle-aged dudes who don't want to be that. You know, it's like, why do people dress a certain way? Why do people choose to wear certain clothes? They want to portray an image to other people. Social acceptance is extremely important to people. So for a suburban middle-class dad who wants to be seen as a strong man around his friends, who doesn't want to be seen as weak, pathetic, and effeminate, he ain't drinking Bud Light anymore. Probably never again.
The thing I would take issue with the way you described it before, though, or the thing that I think is just a little bit outdated, is that the idea that you're right, that his performance is completely at odds with the idea of somebody with actual gender dysphoria. But the discourse has moved on to a point where you don't have to have gender dysphoria. That's not, in fact, it's considered insulting by some trans activists to insist that somebody needs to have gender dysphoria to be trans, because it's gone from what was considered a mental disorder to what was considered just kind of like a condition that you could be treated for and healed from, to essentially a lifestyle choice.
Yes.
Right? It's like you just choose. And so Dylan Mulvaney is a very good portrayal of that. Just all you have to do is announce it.
Well, part of the utility of gender dysphoria for the transgender movement and that label is it also did place a pathology on it that a person could be suffering with and trying to escape, whereas the view of them as autogynephiliacs, for example, which many of them are, who knows how you can quantify it, but which is just a person who's sexually aroused by the thought of them being themselves as the opposite sex, is something people are far less comfortable with. Because
don't forget the AAP as well. The AAP, autoandrophiles.
Yes, exactly, which is the female variant, a woman who's aroused, conceptualizing herself as a man. Because then what you have to admit is that you are being forced to participate in someone else's sexual fetish.
Which is a lot
is a lot harder to justify to the public in the short term. Now, in the long run, if they really do continue to win the culture war in the ways that they have, and we don't keep pushing back, they're eventually just going to start openly admitting, yes, there is autogynephilia and autoandrophilia, and,
they already are.
And that's okay, and you should still be forced to participate in their fetish.
That's what I think the Leah Thomas controversy was. The NCAA swimmer, the male, was apparently posting things on social media about being, was it AGP, they call it, which is to imply that this individual is being excited, in a matter of speaking, by forcing other people to participate in this fantasy.
Wow. Exactly, which is at the very least something we would have called sexual harassment several years ago. Saying, I'm going to go into the women's locker room and force them to say that I'm a woman because that gets me off. That's predatory in and of itself. It's not a question of, is this person going to physically assault someone while they're in there? You're already forcing them to engage in sexual fantasy and role play with you.
Let's do a hard segue here, because I have this story from Timcast.com. Georgia DA puts police on heightened security amid potential midsummer indictment of Trump. Multiple legal experts believe she will follow through with criminal charges, and I think so. But the story was written by Adrian Norman, so I'll throw it to you. What's going on?
What's going on is the continuation of the 5-year now saga we have of the Get Trump Mafia, who are looking at any other way to try to get this guy and stop him from returning back to the White House. I mean, we got the case in New York with
Alvin Bragg.
Alvin Bragg, yeah. We've got the special prosecutor in D.C. who's after him, and now we've got Fannie Willis in Georgia, and I think they're trying to throw a bunch of stuff to the wall and see what sticks.
And the federal indictment now, they got his Secret Service testifying against them. So we're looking at, was it 3? But it's probably going to be more. We got
at least 3.
Yeah, New York, federal, and Georgia. Yeah. They are going to indict Trump. And then I guess my question for the panel is, do you think Trump gets convicted in any of these jurisdictions?
The Georgia one is over the, I hope,
interference or whatever
thing.
Yeah, the 2020 election when he was on the phone with state officials saying, "Hey, can you find votes?"
So that is a much, much, much more serious case than this garbage in New York.
Absolutely. They're trying to hit him with RICO charges.
Right.
Wow.
It's pretty serious stuff. And again, it's if you follow the case at all, it's very clear that he wasn't intent on engaging in any sort of fraud, but they had thought that fraud had occurred because there were so many anomalies and problems that occurred in the election and so many questions that were raised. But obviously, one of Trump's greatest flaws, and this has been the case since he ran for office, is that he's very imprecise and he says things that allow you to easily misinterpret what his actual intent is.
Or intentionally.
Well, yeah.
Pull out of context.
So, in his pursuit for what was really a sort of a righteous cause and saying, hey, we think that there was a mistake that was made with a certain number of votes, find out what's true, what's not. They're misinterpreting the entire tenet of his phone call, his team's investigation, to frame it as though he was trying to rig the outcome of the election when he wasn't. He was simply trying to discover whether or not election fraud had actually occurred.
But I don't think that matters. I think they will make up any reason to go after him. The documents thing, New York, they're going to convict him. I do not see a New York jury acquitting Donald Trump. I don't, and this is going to be in Georgia, but it's probably going to be in a more urban district, I imagine, when they bring him down. I don't know how he's going to, if he's going to try and, make some argument for a different venue in the state or something that's more favorable, which makes no sense. And then you also have the E. Jean Carroll thing, where I guess Trump didn't show up. Is that what happened? Were you following that?
No.
All I saw was that people were tweeting Trump's a no-show at the E. Jean Carroll case. She's accusing him of rape from like 50 years ago or something. And yep, they got it in the courts.
I got this. You guys might not agree with this. This might be unpopular, but I do think that he was looking for votes. I mean, I do think that he was trying to look for, I think he was trying to pressure the state to throw the election to him.
But
so that's why I think it's a
but
much
how?
more serious case. I mean, I will like plead ignorance that it's not something that I followed very closely. I just know the top lines like everybody else. It's.
But how do you find votes? What does it even mean? Like in the worst possible interpretation.
I don't know that he had a specific plan for what he was trying to ask of them. I think he was just trying to exert his influence and say, do what you need to do. You're the Secretary of State. Do what you need to do to, do what you need to do. And I don't want to know what it is basically what he's saying. But you're going to find the votes to deliver Georgia to me. That's what I think he was trying to communicate. But you reported this out.
Well,
so
I mean, we have the full transcript of the call, so we know exactly what was said. And again, it's one of those things where Trump is Trump. He says some things that oftentimes can be misinterpreted, and I think that's what happened. And you have liberal media establishments that run with these narratives, and the truth makes it around the world before the lie makes it around the world before the truth has boots on. And I think there were so many stories that were being pushed through the mainstream media regarding this particular story that framed it in a certain way. It didn't even matter what the truth was at that point.
Yeah.
Get the transcript up?
Yeah. I'm going to try and see if I can. What is this? Trump says, thank you very much. Hello, Brad and Ryan, blah, blah, blah. We're getting 25 to 30,000 people at a rally. We have a number of things. We have at least 2 or 3, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County, which hasn't been checked. We think that if you check the signatures, a real check of the signatures going back to Fulton County, you'll find at least a couple 100,000 forged signatures of people who have been forged, and we are quite sure that's going to happen. But I mean, that is just Trump's speculation. He was wanting them to go and look for it. So like in that context, I'd say this. If Trump was like, hey, do a signature verification, because I bet those are no good signatures, is that trying to swing an election?
No, but I don't think that he would personally make that phone call, right? Like the president of the United States is calling and saying, hey, we've got this report. Like you would run that through somebody else if that was seriously your goal. It just seems like a personal phone call from the president saying, this is fishy and I want you to act on it.
Yeah, but he's the president. You think he's going to try to swing an election when everything he's doing is recorded and he's in a room full of advisors?
But it's not just that. I mean, what he's saying right here is
maybe
if let's just remove it from Trump. If an individual says, I believe there was impropriety here and I think you should allow us to check for it, is that above board or nefarious?
The problem is that like we could, this would be like how it would go in a courtroom where we would be parsing these words and trying to figure out the literal meaning and discern the intent from actual evidence, which is how you should litigate. But like, really, this is an exercise just right here in mind reading, right? We have no idea, but so it's totally intuitive. But
so let me read you the full quote from Donald Trump. And I'll stress too, I think he's wrong about the fraud narrative. I do think there's issues with, in Time Magazine, they wrote the shadow campaign. You see the article, the shadow campaign to save the election?
Yep.
They wrote what they
crazy.
did and how they did it. It was procedural. It was through government. It was with deals over a year. And it was shutting down entertainment, which resulted in a mass amount of mail-in ballots. Then I think the question is, how do I phrase this? People are saying it's fraud when in reality it may be just like lower standards, meaning ballots came in through mail-in voting and they were just like, this one's probably fine. Yeah. As opposed to in the past, they'd be like, we're going to scrutinize the signature. So this is what Trump said. He says, let me see, I might have to read more because, well, whatever. He says, you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal, is more illegal for you than it is for them because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's criminal. That's a criminal offense and you can't let that happen, blah, blah, blah. He says, and they were moving machinery and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. You know, I mean, I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have because we won the state. And flipping the state is a great testament to our country because you know, this is a testament that they can admit to a mistake or whatever you want to call it. If it was a mistake, I don't know. A lot of people think it wasn't a mistake. It was much more criminal than that, but it's a big problem in Georgia, and it's not a problem that's going away. I mean, you know, it's not a problem that's going away. So this one snippet in context is Trump saying, I believe there was criminal action in your state, and I want you to actually have an investigation of it. And they just said no to him. And he says, look, I'm just saying I want to find 11,000. The context that I see there is, for one, I think Trump pushing the criminal thing was like a heavy-handed threat. Claiming fraud was to try and scare them into actually doing it. Mm-hmm. But Trump is basically saying to them, I believe there are ballots with bad signatures. I believe that if you investigate, you will see hundreds of thousands. And I just need to find 11,780 of them to win.
I mean, it's possible that it's both of what we're describing, because he could have truly believed that he won the state, and he could have truly believed that there was fraud. But the way he went about, but he also was single-mindedly focused on flipping the state, which he says in the statement, and he's leaning on the Secretary of State in a very totally inappropriate way, saying, in light of all this, do what you need to do to deliver the election to me because I deserve it because I actually won it. I mean,
well, let's say
there's no reason to get any more votes than you actually need to win.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a legal standard.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to these lawsuits, one of the big things we found was that you can't actually file a lawsuit unless you can justify just enough votes to actually have won.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an argument that suing for a number that to an extreme degree would be deemed like gratuitous.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you file a lawsuit, if you can prove one more vote than you needed to win, you have standing.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is this. Let me ask you: if you were involved in a competition,
mm-hmm.
let's call it an origami competition, and then you folded 1,000 paper cranes, and then noticed that a bunch of the paper cranes on the other side you believed looked suspicious. What's the appropriate way to go about checking to make sure your opponents were on the level? If you go to the judges and say, hey, I think those cranes are fake, well, by your standard, you're saying that you're putting undue pressure on the judges to allow you to win.
In this situation, am I somebody who has
You're the reigning champion.
Power over the judges, though?
Well, as the reigning champion and the fan favorite, you know,
right, but
there's a concern that if you don't win, people are going to be mad.
But he's leaning on somebody who is in his political party, who's part of the political apparatus that he's the head of.
But he has no power over Georgia state election officials.
Well, not directly.
And the issue I take with your argument is that if there ever is any impropriety, the only thing you can do is give up and submit to those.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I think that he was doing something inappropriate, and that I think that his intent was to basically bully his way into having Georgia delivered to him. I'm not making any judgments.
You don't think that mind reading is a bad legal standard?
That what?
You don't think that mind reading is a bad legal standard?
But no, I'm just saying my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not arguing the case. I'm not litigating.
So the issue is you've made a determination about Georgia. You've then determined that anyone who opposes that determination is doing something nefarious. You see my point?
Well, it seems like you're asking me to take my standard and apply it as a universal standard. And I'm not prepared to do that. Because
what I'm saying is, if I don't know and don't have the evidence of an outcome, I would expect certification and confirmation. If a woman goes to the police and says, this man committed a crime against me,
mm-hmm.
I would expect the police to actually do some kind of preliminary investigation.
Right.
Not necessarily condemn the guy or charge him or arrest him, but to be like, we'll look into it. If a politician goes to the police and says that their daughter had been brutally assaulted and raped, and the cops were like, well, I'm not going to do anything about it, and the guy says, look, I'm just asking you to go and investigate the guy, that is not, in my opinion, undue pressure for a politician to get some kind of legal outcome. Mm-hmm. It's literally what everyone is supposed to do if they feel something bad happened. I think Trump I don't know what happened in Georgia. I think Trump's fraud narrative is wrong. I think they explained exactly how they won with the shadow campaign, changing procedural rules. Trump's argument here is that they were lax on signature verification, and that if they looked into it, they would probably find hundreds of thousands. I don't know if that's true or not. It's immaterial. The issue is they didn't actually check. And the only way you'd actually seek to rectify a problem like that is to go to them and say, do it.
Yeah.
So my issue is, while I disagree with Trump, I don't see any other way to seek remedy other than asking someone to do a verification of it.
Well, this is obviously not a hill I'm prepared to die on, but I would say that what you guys are saying is totally fair. I think that this is the basis for our case because, if it's as you say and it's all on the up and up, then that's going to be the defense's position. And if it is the case that he was trying to sway the election inappropriately, that's a serious offense. I'm just saying that it's a serious case, unlike, for example, Stormy Daniels, which is totally frivolous.
Well, let me ask you this: what if they do go back and find? Actually, we found 12,000 mismatched signatures. Would you then think Trump was acting inappropriately if they confirmed that he was right?
It would definitely change the context of my thinking about
But
this.
they didn't actually go back and take Trump's request seriously. So then
We'll never know.
But then, so how could you have a negative view if they didn't do anything? You know what I mean? Like if they went back and said Trump was wrong, then I'd agree with you. I'd be like, wow, Trump was totally wrong. So Trump's argument here was mismatched signatures. And it's like, well, I don't know, maybe they didn't check. I mean, the fraud stuff, I certainly think is wrong. That was weird. That was like Dominion and stuff, and the CIA and all that was out of the question.
Yeah.
But arguing about lax signature verification policies, something totally different.
Yeah. So your point is, since it didn't amount to anything, then there's no real. It's not. It's like an.
Well,
attempted,
it's like, look, if you have two people who are standing before a judge and one's saying X and one's saying Y, I think it's inappropriate to be like, how dare you ask that question, person A, when a judge should be like, okay, show me your evidence. And then the person will be like, here's a list of things I think justifies my claim. And the judge should then be like, person B, do you have a counterclaim to refute this? And then if investigation, it's like, if there's probable cause, then a court should be like, okay, we're going to grant a signature verification request to see if these claims are accurate.
I mean, it's sort of like, okay, to take an extreme example, if you're an elected official and you went to somebody and you're like, listen, it seems like you might need help with your daughter's private school education, and like is that of interest to you? And oh, by the way, I'm looking for this particular favor, and you're saying everything short of directly offering a bribe. You could have the same litigation around whether this was entirely, maybe he was just trying to help out her the person's daughter who was going to private school, and it would come down to this mind reading thing, or you could look at the totality of the circumstances and say this looks a lot like a bribe.
But I think that situation, it's easier to make a quid pro quo, right? Because Trump doesn't say specifically, I could do this thing for you.
Yeah, he just said, hey, I think this thing happened. Will you check? And they said, no. And then he was like, are you kidding me? And they're like, no, go away.
Right.
And then your attitude is like, how dare Trump ask for a remedy to a perceived problem? If someone, so there's a few questions around this. I mean, if we're dealing with matters of public interest, then I don't think the Fourth Amendment plays a role. If the government is involved in something, then the government has a right to publish to the people the results of a search. I don't see how it makes sense that, I'll put it this way. If someone came to me, if someone to the cops and said, Tim Pool stole my spoons, the cops would be like, we'll talk to him and we'll see what's going on. And then if they can't get any probable cause to get a warrant, too bad, so sad, have a nice day. And that's it. However, if it's a group of police officers are carrying a bunch of spoons, and then one person says, they stole my spoons, and another person says, actually, they didn't, you're lying. And then a person calls the police chief and says, just look in the police locker room, and if the spoons are there, that proves it. I don't see that as undoing. Like, if a politician did it, it doesn't matter. If the fact is, we're dealing with an election. The smartest thing in the world to do would be for Georgia to be like, you know what, Trump, so that we can throw out all confusion, we absolutely will do the check and prove to you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Instead, they said, we're going to arrest you and criminally indict you for daring to ask.
I'm applying the same standard that I would apply to the situation that we discussed earlier, in which Tony Blinken called Michael Morell and he said, I'm very concerned about the possibility of Russian interference in the election around the Hunter Biden laptop story. But he never asked, according to Morell's testimony, he never said, could you write this letter, et cetera.
But listen.
But Michael Morell took his marching orders, and like you could say, maybe Tony Blinken was just concerned about Russian disinformation.
But you're insinuating that Trump was secretly instructing them to fabricate ballots. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I don't know how. I'm not sure that he even had it that well thought out. I think it's much more crass than that. It's just like, do what you need to do, but this is my priority. Go do it.
I don't want to dogpile, but I just want to make a point about the analogy. I think part of where it breaks down is with Blinken, they all came out and said this was Russian disinformation, even though it wasn't.
Right.
And I think that's what makes that situation different and really egregious, is they ended up saying something that wasn't true for a political campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go to Super Chats, because we're not going to resolve that one, but I think we made our points. And then if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, become a member at timcast.com, click the join us on the website. You'll get access to our Discord server to hang out with like-minded individuals and access to the members-only uncensored show, which will be on the front page at about 10 p.m. But for now, we will read what y'all have to say in the Super Chats. I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, it's sad seeing heroes who stand up being crushed, whether it's Julian Assange, James O'Keefe, Donald Trump, or Tucker Carlson. Globalism is slavery.
Or Captain America. By the way, Luke was in chat saying Seamus is a dog and then later a dirty dog. So he's still upset.
That is
with
deeply
me being
offensive.
here. I know.
All right. Goldilocks Production says, I deleted Fox News app, unsubbed from them on YouTube, and unfollowed them on Rumble and Apple News Watch. They showed their true colors this week, and legacy media can go fade to nothing. Hear, hear, good sir. All right. S.A. Federale says, Tim, Steven Crowder says Rumble is under DDoS while they grow. You need to get Tucker and Zero Hedge under that umbrella. I'd pay at least $20 a month or $40 for a good option to show the hand the market beats communism. Yup. All right. What do we got? Max Reddick says, Tim, I know you and Crowder are friends, but can we put that aside for a minute to acknowledge that he was crappy to Daily Wire and Dave Landau, accused Candace Owens of extortion, and now he used his divorce as a grift? Crappy. I don't know at all what's going on, man. Earlier, there was a video from Crowder talking about a divorce and insinuating, he played like a clip of Candace Owens and insinuated he was being extorted or something. Then Candace Owens said that he's accusing her of extortion. It's like, dude, I ain't got nothing to do with that, nor do I know. And we talked about the Landau thing, and then I'm hearing other people comment that it's not true. Like Crowder was shouting out Landau's comedy dates and stuff, and I'm like, look, man, I'm not here to get into fights with people like Crowder or Candace or whatever, because I got no idea what their thing is. You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with me.
They're already fighting with me, and I'm a far more formidable foe.
Oh, yeah, they're coming after Seamus.
No, I'm fighting with you, I'm saying. You already have this war with me.
Oh, right. You know, like I woke up in the morning and all potatoes were gone.
Yeah, it's true. I was like, you want to make racist jokes? I'll show you. I'll take all the potatoes. But it really backfired because I was like, why does Seamus have all the potatoes? I was like, it's not like, it's because...
it actually backfired because we were going to make hash browns for Seamus for breakfast.
Yeah.
And we couldn't find the potatoes.
That was really thoughtful of you guys.
That was very hurtful to your Irish heart.
It was. I just felt, it was like, that actually would have been enjoyable, and that was a thoughtful plan. So.
Yeah. And we were going to sprinkle lava salt on it. That's right. It's a special kind of, very special salt.
Could you do it tomorrow, maybe?
You have to give back the potatoes.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, buddy.
Okay.
So,
all right, what do we got? Lithian Cross says, could all this be a media purging campaign? A lot of big personalities have been either removed or attacked, James O'Keefe being where it all began. Isn't that crazy? James O'Keefe, Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson, Nate Silver, BuzzFeed News in its entirety. Wow.
I didn't even know about the James O'Keefe thing until like a couple hours ago. What happened? Why was he fired from Veritas?
He resigned. He was ousted, put on leave, because a letter circulated within the company accusing him of just impropriety, which was clearly BS.
Like financial?
No, well, sort of. They claimed that he like was using company funds for a wedding, but it was like a Veritas. There's two stories. First, they said he used company funds for his wedding venue. Then someone said, no, that was for the Veritas corporate party. And then someone else said, actually, it was for his wedding. When that got canceled, he just used it for the Veritas party. And I'm like, I literally don't care. So it took James O'Keefe, as far as I'm concerned, should be getting paid 5 times as much money than he is. We can see the 990s for Veritas. We saw how much he was making. I think it was like 300 to 400K or whatever. And I'm like, this dude got raided by the feds, is doing some of those consequential journalism in the world. If anyone deserves to be wealthy off their job, it's James O'Keefe. So the fact that they were like, and he used the money to set up a corporate party, but it was really because he couldn't get a refund back for a wedding. I'm like, so what? Well, I don't care if the company bought him a McLaren. You know, like, give the guy a trophy made of gold.
The real story is he went undercover to marry somebody.
That's right.
Yeah, he was filming them the entire time, and he wanted to like live out a whole marriage with some lefty so he could really, really expose him. That's why they were allowed to have Veritas pay for the wedding.
All right, what is this? Essay Federale. Max is actually grifting. Candace went low. Steven never did anything wrong. Who's Max? What are they referring to? Max? Max who? No idea.
Yeah, who's Max?
All right. Scrubby McScrubberson says, Tim, Ammon Bundy put on FBI most wanted list, issued default judgment by judge, and property was surrounded. He held a massive barbecue to avoid a standoff. We had him on the show. It was great. All right. Martin Edgar says, stand your grounds needs to be a triple shot cappuccino blend.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the challenge. Espresso blends are darker, and that has less caffeine in it. You know, lighter roasts have more caffeine. So we would want to do like a light espresso roast, so that it would probably have a higher caffeine concentration, you know? All right. Infernal Saxon says, Wizards of the Coast sent the Pinkertons after someone. I don't know if you guys heard the story, but Wizards of the Coast, they make Magic the Gathering. There's this guy, he got sent a set of cards that hasn't come out yet. And what he thinks happened is there's a set called, what is it called? Something Machines or whatever. And then there was a new set that's got the same name, but says Aftermath. He went to a dealer who said, I've got these boxes. He bought them. Then he realized, wait, these don't come out for a week, you know, or for like 2 weeks. So he made a video about it. And then Wizards of the Coast hired the Pinkerton security agency to go to his house and shake him down and seize his property from him. And he gave it to him. That's the weirdest thing.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
I don't have a right to this.
He was like, they were saying
hand.
they'd replace the product, and they're trying to figure out how it got out. And what he said was he thinks someone sent it out by accident. But I don't care. If I legitimately purchase something, and a private security company showed to my house, the first thing I'm going to say is, by entering my property, you're already committing burglary because we have a physical barrier. So you can GTFO right now, or I will defend my property.
Dude, is this the nerd John Wick who ends up fighting a bunch of private security task force people to the death over the cards he got?
Yeah, it'd be better if it was like
no,
Yu-Gi-Oh
they break
cards,
into
though.
his house. Yeah, exactly. They come into his house to take his Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and he just gets into a gunfight with them over
I mean,
it.
John Wick was over a puppy, though, right? Which is
No,
nerdy,
but we all understand that.
We can understand. Look, it's a lovable little dog. This dude is like,
There's more than
they
that.
took my cards.
His wife got him the dog when she died.
Right.
And
There
so
was an emotional
they killed
arc.
the dog. John Wick's awesome. I got to watch part 4. I haven't seen it. I got to watch
seen
it
it either.
Yeah, it just came out. John Wick's a good story. The first one's the best one. The rest are just good fun. You know? But the first one's like such a good story.
Yeah, I
So
saw the
brutal.
first one. I didn't see any of the other ones.
Yeah. All right. Essay Federale says Mug Club is the best thing since Murdoch became Bud Light. What? Murdoch? Let's make a sponsorship now for Tucker Carlson and Zero Hedge. I'd pay more than my mortgages. I mean, that's up to them, you know? I don't know what Tucker Carlson's going to do. It's going to be up to them to start something. All right. Sevi Rose says, please stop calling CBDCs crypto. They may be ledgers and they may use blockchain as a data store, but they are not decentralized. Crypto doesn't mean decentralized. So, and there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are centralized. Like Ethereum is, I believe Ethereum for the most part is centralized.
I actually had a question about, I was asking a friend who knows much more about this than I do, and you guys do too, but about the new currency. So isn't the whole purpose of blockchain that you don't create anymore, right? There's only a finite amount out there?
No.
Am I getting it totally wrong?
Bitcoin is finite.
Okay.
Dogecoin's not. Dogecoin's inflationary.
Okay.
So Dogecoin's actually fairly smart, and although it's based on a meme, people need to understand like it's kind of legit. I do own a little bit, full disclosure, but the idea with Dogecoin is that the monetary supply increases by a certain percentage every year, so that there is a controlled volume increase, which does make sense.
So with this new currency, would the Fed still have the ability to be able to
Yes.
create money and restrict the creation? Okay.
Easily.
Oh, yeah, they would never, right? They would never issue a currency that they couldn't create, manipulate, and make more of.
So then what exactly is the difference between what we're talking about and just cash, or like cash in the form of
It's
numbers on a screen.
every
Total
transaction
control.
is tracked in a ledger, so they can see everywhere you've gone, plug it into an AI, and then follow you every step of your existence.
Well, CBDCs
That
are also
sounds bad.
programmable, so they can prevent you from spending your money on certain purchases like guns.
So this is terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
very bad for us.
So what'll happen is there are things you do in your life that you do not realize correlate. So what we found is Facebook, for instance, knows when you poop. They know when you're going to poop.
Yeah.
Because what they found is,
I'm not on Facebook. Do they know when I poop?
yes, because
they do.
you are on Facebook. You're wrong.
Right.
Facebook has something called
Internet,
shadow profiles.
Right.
You know what shadow
Yeah,
profile?
yeah, totally.
So what they'll do is they'll say, if a person moves 3 meters in, within the span of 20 seconds, and then stops and pauses, and it's between the time period of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., there is a 73.9% chance they'll go to the bathroom within 10 minutes. Because the AI can see patterns we can't see.
Right.
So now plug in a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. They will have pre-crime. They will say there is a 97% chance that when someone goes to this location and to that location, a day later, they will purchase a narcotic from this location. And they will be waiting for you with pre-crime agents and an old man being like, precogs have found that you are going to buy drugs. And then you'll be like,
This is something for people to understand about the censorship industrial complex, because I think people probably think of it as like a bunch of, spies and hall monitors just like doing Google searches looking for people spreading quote unquote disinformation, or Twitter searches, whatever. And that is some of it. But most of it, the overwhelming majority of it, was driven by AI. So already, like, I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about like the Stanford Internet Observatory and all these groups would had AI algorithms that would run sort of searches based on themes, and then they would catch as many hundreds of thousands and millions of social media posts within that bucket, and then they would send it to the platforms. So
Horrifying.
that was already happening. The AI is getting better and better. The future that we're afraid of with the censorship industrial complex stuff is that it's all going to be run on AI, and the AI is going to dwarf what we have now.
It's already
And so
happened.
Everything that you see, everything that you read, everything that you post is going to be filtered through AI that either increases it or throttles it for viewers, and controls what you see, and that's what they're trying to construct.
I think it's already been constructed.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing the surface that's already existed for a long time. All right, here's a scary one. David Kirkpatrick said Sandy Spring Bank had to pull $21 million out of reserves to cover losses and is now laying off 60. This is driven by the Fed's rate increases. The bank did too many low-rate loans and is losing money. Yeah, I think it's going to collapse, and then they're going to introduce CBDC. The working theory I have, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I don't know how probability is that there's going to be a bunch of banks that collapse. They're going to come in and say, you've been rescued, download our app, and we will transfer your funds into, GovCoin or whatever they'll call it. And then people are going to do it with glee. They're going to be like, oh no, my money's all gone. The bank collapsed. And what's going to happen is the Republicans are going to be like, no, no, no. And the Democrats are going to be like, yes, yes, yes. And people are going to be like, the Democrats the government needs to do this. How am I supposed to pay my employees? How am I supposed to pay my bills? And then everyone's going to go and vote Democrat. And the Democrats are going to rubber stamp the CBDC. And then your bank is going to dissolve, but the app will have all of your funds in it. Here it comes. Yep. They will make you beg for the servitude. That's smart. If you try to impose this on people, they're going to resist.
Yep.
You make them beg you for it.
Yeah.
Hope
That's
you're
the
ready.
case with the censorship stuff. People are this is organic. It's coming from the top down, but it's also coming from the bottom up. People are demanding this stuff.
All right, let's get some more super chats.
Okay, I have to point something out. Luke's still talking smack on the chat, and he missed a great opportunity for a pun. Luke, I want you to be better at this, so I'm gonna critique your insult. He said Shameless is already on Leprechaun coin. You should have said Leprecoin. I mean, it's unbelievable. Dude.
It does say leprechaun.
Leprecoin coin.
Yeah.
Then he wrote coin twice. Foolish. 2 coins. That's how you get inflation, idiot.
Yeah, Luke's so dumb.
Luke's so dumb. Get better at it, bro.
All right. Sam says in Back to the Future 2, in 2015, Marty is asked to donate to a charity by thumbing $100 by scanning his thumb for a funds transfer. Isn't it funny that Back to the Future 2 took place in 2015?
And it was exactly like that.
I know. I mean, it's crazy because in 2015, I was riding around Times Square on a hoverboard while like sharks and dinosaurs were coming out of the ads.
This is what they
We
took from
do
us.
have the 3D ads though now. You know, if you go to Times Square and you look at the ad, it's bent and it looks like, you know, 3-dimensional.
Really?
Yeah. The way, because it's at an angle, and then the way the video is. So if you're looking straight at it from one side, it looks really weird. But if you're standing at the right angle, it looks 3-dimensional, like it's coming out of the ad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some Blade Runner.
What do we got next? Joe Spinell says BlackRock increased its stock ownership of Fox to over 15% in February. I'm pretty certain those at BlackRock aren't fans of Tucker. Yep. Tyler Bachman says, I have narcolepsy. I take modafinil. You're good for about 8 to 12 hours. Haven't encountered dry skin in the 5 years I've been taking the drug. The drug is one of 3 drugs that allows me to have a relatively normal life. Oh, wow. Captain Caveman says, is Seamus Ian's replacement asking for a friend? No. Seamus is Luke's replacement.
That's right.
Yeah. Ian's just, where is he?
As
He's
he
in
looks
Austin?
straight into the camera.
That's right. You're never coming back, Luke. This is my seat now. Enjoy obscurity in Florida.
Well, you know what we'll do? To be fair to Luke,
to nothing.
we'll give Luke 48 hours to come back. And if he doesn't, we'll write Seamus on the chair.
That's right. It's my chair. You won't be
So
back.
so there you go.
You're afraid.
We Are Change writes, Shameless likes to drink Bug Light as he tries to kick helpless dogs.
Luke, you should say that a 4th time in chat. I bet it'll get even funnier.
Was it the 4th time he said it?
That's like the 4th time he said it, yeah.
Bug Light?
Bug Light. I think
Like you eat bugs?
he doesn't know how to spell. He
Says, no one can replace me. Well, to be, you know, Luke, you're right. So if you're here within 48 hours, we'll give you your chair back. Otherwise, we're writing Seamus on it.
Chair, that's right.
I will take a silver paint marker and I will write Seamus on the chair.
Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Sorry, buddy.
Captain Caveman says, what's a potato's favorite TV show? Starch Trek.
Wow. I heard someone in chat who actually made a clever pun about Bud Light said, Spud Light is what I drink. But I said, that's pretty good.
This potato thing all started because I was watching Leprechaun. I think it was Leprechaun 2. I'm not sure.
Yes.
And Seamus walks in and he's like, what are you watching? And he looks at the screen and there's a guy turning Irish because he got bit by a leprechaun. And he orders from the waitress. This really happens in the movie. He's like, I want mashed potatoes, French fries, tater tots, and waffle fries. And he's eating a whole bunch of different French fries. And Seamus just turns and sees this guy and he's like, what is this?
This is the most racist thing I've ever seen. I can't believe this.
But no joke. The guy gets bitten by the leprechaun and starts turning Irish.
That's literally what happens.
Yeah.
And he starts embodying all these Irish stereotypes.
What?
It's
But
like,
potatoes?
This is our representation in media?
But the messed up thing is potatoes aren't even endemic to Ireland.
That's a lie. That's a dirty lie.
They were introduced to Ireland.
Stop it. Stop
but
it.
it's
You're a
true, right?
liar. You're
No,
lying. No,
but-
that is true technically. But,
so
don't,
basically what
it's
they're doing-
metaphorically false.
The Leprechaun movie was using the potato famine as like a stereotype about Irish people because they didn't have potatoes.
You can say anything about it. Listen, Irish people weren't considered white until being white meant you had to apologize for being white all the time. Like, it's just, we're the group that everyone can make fun of and crap on, but we're going to get sick of it.
Jonathan Howe says, Tim, please get Tucker on IRL. Yes. Just, like, I love when people are just like, you should have Trump on the show. I'm like, yeah, we should. That's
right.
great. You should get Tucker. All right. You know, and Brad Pitt, maybe Tom Cruise at the same time.
Tucker, if you're listening, don't come on. Tim doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve your presence. Come on to Shamer, rumble.com/Shamer. Don't
Oh, yeah.
support
But we
Tim and what
reached out to
he's doing.
Tucker's team, and he is cognizant of the desire. He is aware. And we'll see what happens. It's up to him. You know, we'll have him out when he wants to come out. Maybe when he's launching his show, he'll come here and announce it, and we'll have like a big thing where he's like, you know,
Here's my new show. It's amazing. It's called Shamer. I'm stealing his podcast name. I'm like, what? Tucker's just stealing my
and then
my
he
new
then he
podcast is
snaps
called
his fingers.
Freedom Tunes.
He snaps his fingers, and then 2 guys come and just carry you out of the room.
You guys you cross out Seamus on my chair and write Tucker on it.
Yeah. Luke has been replaced.
First, it was Seamus. Now it's me.
All right, what do we got? John Curson says Tyler Fisher Jordan Peterson impersonation is greater than Potato Man's Jordan impression.
I mean, if you want to debase yourself by lying in the chat, that's fine. But just know you'll be held accountable for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did we just say? I just had a super chat and it just jumped away from me. Where did it go? It said something about. I can't find it. So, you know, so when the super chats come in, it'll load a whole bunch and then just jump ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Zorella says Bud Light, when you don't want to lose money, but you want to lose a lot of it. Well, so the joke is Bud Light is the beer for people who don't want to drink beer, but want to drink a lot of it. But that makes sense because like, I don't really want to drink any beer, but you want to get drunk. Right. Whereas like, you don't want to lose money, but you want to lose a lot of it. It's like, I don't know, but I get it. They're losing money. What is this one? Tenny Ball says, I'm a St. Louis native, home of the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. Apology or not, they are dead to me. Thankfully, Yingling is available over here now. That's cool because it's like an East Coast thing.
Mm-hmm. I love Yingling.
They're good. Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's like a DC thing, right? Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah. PA. It's a Pennsylvania beer, but it's like all over the place out here. And I noticed like everybody orders it. It's like the thing to order, you know? And then further you go west, it disappears, which is weird because it's like
sad.
Super
North
prominent.
too. I don't think like in New York, is it on tap?
We should make Yingling the replacement for Bud Light. Everybody insists that your bar carry this brand.
Yeah.
You know.
No, Tim, we got to make
Ultra
Seamus's beer. Or
well,
whatever.
there is to be fair. This conservative dad's Ultra Right beer.
I heard about that.
We ordered 600 cans of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I recommend against drinking alcohol. By the way, I really do.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's bad. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely bad, but it's also fun.
Well, I'd say it can be good in moderation.
If you're an adult of proper legal drinking age,
Yeah.
then you can make the decision for yourself. But me, I think it's no es bueno. No es bueno. But I understand, you know, it's a beer.
Because
beer
Tim
brings people
can't
together.
control himself. He gets one sip and he goes, it's happening. It's happening. Give me more. I'll drink the Bud Light. I don't care.
Derek Menson says Seamus talks big for a guy from a country that looks like the Apple logo with the UK taking a bite out of it.
First of all, I never talk big. All right. Secondly, I'm really from America. Don't tell anybody.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com. We're going to have a members-only uncensored show coming up live in about 10 minutes on the front page of timcast.com. To watch it, just become a member at timcast.com by clicking Join Us. There will also be instructions on how to join the Discord server so you can hang out with like-minded individuals. Don't forget to also purchase some Cast Brew coffee because pre-orders are about to hit. And they will be delivering by shipping out by May 5th. First come, first serve. So there's a lot of people who have already purchased. This is amazing. We've sold enough product to basically replace sponsorships. We're really excited for it. There's a few that we're keeping on because we're big fans of some of these companies. So again, go to timcast.com, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Leighton, you want to shout anything out?
Sure. Oh, like plug?
Yeah, whatever you want to shout out.
Oh, yeah. I'll plug myself.
There you go.
Public.substack.com is our Substack. That's me and Michael Schellenberger. You can hit me up on Twitter at L Woodhouse. What else do I want to say? If you have any whistleblower leaks to send, you can send it to Leighton Woodhouse at proton.me.
Right on.
I can send you some stuff about Timcast.
And Luke.
We'll talk about it later about Luke Rutkowski. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to level with you. Tim is a bad man with a dark soul. If you want political commentary for someone who isn't evil, you can check out rumble.com/shame and you'll be able to watch me.
And you see, I let him say these things. I believe in free speech.
That's right. He believes in it so much, the capitalists will sell us the rope with which we will hang them, as I like to say. Tim Pool will give me the platform with which I will expose him. But if you want to check out my podcast, it's rumble.com/shamer. And I also make cartoons at a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes. I have an awesome team. We churn out this content. We released a really funny cartoon today, and we're going to have one out Thursday. So keep your eyes peeled for it, kids.
Adrian Norman, DC, on all platforms other than Truth Social and Rumble, which is just Adrian Norman.
Right on.
And I am Serge.com on Twitter. Find me and let's argue.
We will see all of you over at timcast.com in about 10 minutes. Thanks for hanging out.